everybody, welcome. This is our first of our Beyond the Nile lecture series, and I am so happy to welcome Alexandria Petocelli for our first lecture. So Alexandria is a writer and historian specializing in Eastern Roman and Byzantine Empire in Alexandria, Egypt. She is currently studying archaeology through the University of Oxford and is a co-founder of a brand new organization that is seeking to support female-presenting people in the humanities field through outreach, networking, and professional development. I'm part of this group, and we're very excited to get this all started. So everyone, give a very warm welcome to Alexandria. I am going to set up Assassin's Creed Origins, but if you want to start talking, I will go for that.
Sure, yeah. Could totally start talking. So as Melissa already said, that my research focus is 4th century CE Alexandria, Egypt. And that means that I heavily studied the Roman Empire and then more primarily the Byzantine Empire in Alexandria. But in order for me to understand the culture and the context of that period in Alexandria, I've also had to heavily study the Hellenistic period for the past few years. But I'm especially intrigued by the decline of Alexandria as an intellectual capital during this time, because while you're seeing the desecration and anti-intellectualism in the city, we're still seeing advancements in mathematics and navigation during this period. So it's all very fascinating. And then, like, personally, if you walk away from this with like an ounce of thinking that trigonometry is cool, I will have done my job, because I'm not good at trigonometry. I just think it's the coolest thing on this green earth. So
Perfect.
yes.
And I'll give everyone a reminder, we're going to have like 2 Q&A sessions after we finish looking into the Discovery Tour of Assassin's Creed Origins. We'll have a Q&A session, and then after the PowerPoint, we'll have another. If you have a question, there is a channel point redemption that is lecture questions. It's only 1 onc, and you can write your question down, redeem it, and then we will check back in. And Alexandria can see the chat, so if she wants to just answer a question anytime, she is more than feel free to do that. But just to, if you don't want your question to be lost in everything, just use the channel point redemption. So let me switch over to our secondary page, and then let me share this. So also, I found the building that you were talking about before. So
Oh, sweet. Yay. Okay.
Okay, last thing I need to do is share my screen with her. Which screen is it? This one. So share, and then you'll see yourself for a second, and then you should see it. Let me know if you can't.
Oh, I do. You see it.
Perfect. All right.
Beautiful.
So we'll go in there. I'm gonna bump the desktop audio up a little bit, but not too loud. But yeah, I'm so excited. We love Origins here. I wish like we had played this, like this was the first game we played on stream. So like a lot of people who have, if anybody's been here the entire time that I've been streaming, has seen me play through this. But I have a feeling I've had so much turnover that a lot of people have not seen me play this.
Oh no, and then you have
like,
to play it again.
I'm tempted, but it's a long game to only play once a week for 2 hours.
That's how, I mean, I'm going through it right now, and that's how I'm having to do it, because it's so emotionally draining. You have to like get up and take a walk for a little while.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I may be here for years.
Alright, so we are going into the Discovery Tour, and I have already preset where our little character is going to be, but everyone in the chat, we all need to vote who we're going to play as, because I'm currently playing as Aya, but we can play as a whole slew of people, and I will show you all the different people before Alexandra gets into her lecture. Just have to wait for it to load, because Origins is one of the games that notoriously is not good on stream, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Apparently a lot of the Assassin's Creed games have a special button that you're supposed to like turn on when you're trying to stream it, and they just decided not to do that for Origins. So
Oh, okay.
sometimes you might lag, so just move on and hopefully it won't completely crash. I can run. I can just run.
That's very nice. Are we, I have spoiler alert, but are we starting at the lighthouse, or are we like
starting at the lighthouse?
Okay, cool.
And I am at the tippy top, so I'll have to drop down or climb down or
Oh no, that's perfect, because then we can see the city.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we should be whenever this decides to load up. Have you played yet as Aya,
I haven't yet.
Yeah,
I am not very far.
Yeah, you only play as her like twice, and they're kind of one's like in the middle and one's at the very very end of the main quest, and it's a bummer because I want to play as her constantly.
No, I remember, I think I caught the tail end of you playing this game, and did you mention that she was supposed to be the main character through the whole thing, and then they decided not to? Dang.
Aww, I was on top of the library. Or the lighthouse. Well.
Oh, that's okay. Well, we can.
No, I can fast travel there.
Okay.
Because we're in the Discovery Tour, so.
I could talk about the city the whole time, so.
We'll fast
you
travel.
Do what you need
we'll
to
fast
do.
travel to the library.
The library or the lighthouse?
The lighthouse. I keep doing that.
Okay.
We're starting at the lighthouse. If that's good with you.
That's fine. That's great.
All right.
I was just like, wait. I have notes, so I.
I know, and I know that.
It's like
they're
shuffling.
both LI words, and they're both in Alexandria, and it does not help. All right.
Oh, she's crouching. Does that mean yes?
Yes.
All right.
All right.
Well,
go right ahead.
Now you can actually see Alexandria as a city, and you may notice that it looks like if you haven't played the game. You can notice though that it looks completely different than other Egyptian villages and cities throughout the nation. But Alexandria, Egypt, the reason for this being is that at its core, it's a Hellenistic city. And Hellenistic is the term that we're going to give to Greek history and language and culture that spans from the death of Alexander the Great to the defeat of Cleopatra and Mark Antony in 31 BC. Sometimes you're going to see that same term used with the Roman Empire as well, and it's important to note that the Hellenistic period isn't Roman. Rather, Rome was living and heavily influenced by the Grecian cultural period. That being said, I don't know anyone that actually gets up in arms about the semantics there, because Rome was just copy-paste when it came to Greek culture, like far beyond just being influenced by it. I mean, you have, Poseidon and Jupiter, we're renaming things, or Neptune, we're renaming things and keeping all the same culture. So very much copy paste. But this is going to play an important role when we start looking at the influence of the city in Roman assimilation. But now that we have seen this amazing city from above, oh my goodness, you're a hawk.
Yes.
Are you a falcon or a hawk? What are you?
I think we're a falcon. I can't remember.
I'm gonna get so distracted.
This is I actually can't remember what. Oh, an eagle. No, I don't know, Freya, because in Odyssey I think we're an eagle because we're called eagle bearer. I think we're a falcon, but I really don't know the difference between them. I can't remember this one's name. The other one's name is Icarus in Odyssey, but I don't remember this one's name.
Oh wow. And fun fact, when you're in the city, you can hear people speaking in Greek, like the citizens around you as you're walking. And I think that it's modern Greek instead of ancient common. But which is very similar actually. So modern Greek is just maybe more simplified and a little bit different grammatically, but I think it's so cool that they added that.
His name is Senu. Thank you, Real Men Grow Beards. I remember that now. I can't remember what that means though in Egyptian, because it definitely is, but I don't remember at the moment.
Very nice. Oh my goodness, it's so pretty from up there.
I know.
Well, the lighthouse is considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And I mean, just by looking at this, you can tell why. It's also the second tallest man-made structure at the time. I think the first one was one of the pyramids.
Probably. Which?
Yeah,
are
I don't.
There. Even though they're not. Even though they're not. They're like way down there, but not there.
Are you sure? Oh, really?
The way that they condensed this map significantly. So they are in
I see them now. I didn't realize
direction,
that was what you were saying.
But they are not there.
I didn't see them until you said something.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? What's not there?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to play it cool. Wow, I see that. Okay.
They're not that close. They are in that general southern direction, but they've completely gotten rid of the Nile, and they've completely messed up, or they've gotten rid of the delta. There's no delta here, pretty much. Like there's some kind of over there, but it's not in the shape. It's not in the Fluvian fan. But yeah. Hi, Mark. Welcome.
Yeah, you don't need the Nile at all. Like you can just.
They have it, but they put everything on one side of the Nile, which is not how they lived.
Okay.
And this is my one big pet peeve about this game. Everything else is literally great, but I feel like even though they condensed the map, it could be better. So.
No, that makes sense. But this is one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, and it is considered the second tallest man-made structure of the time. You can't deny its magnificence. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I love it when we see structures like this, especially in antiquity, that's not only showcasing, grandeur or feats of engineering, but it's also serving a practical purpose. I think being able to take both practicality and beauty and putting it into something like this is just remarkable.
Absolutely.
And the lighthouse was crucial in bringing safe passage to the Great Harbor. There were actually 3 ports in Hellenistic Alexandria, and the lighthouse would have been strategically situated to give quick access to the imperial residence and important buildings. So to put it into terms that I guess we can understand, that it would be like landing right on the Upper East Side of New York City rather than JFK. You would have been quick and easy access, which, man, I wish we could do that now. I hate going from JFK and having to take a taxi all the way through.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the eastern part of the harbor, which was the royal port, laid the palaces. Nice.
I think it's flipped in this game. This would be the western part, but this is where the palace is on this side.
Okay.
This big building over here. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it had the palaces of the Ptolemies, the Emporium, and then it would have also had the temple that Cleopatra had commissioned for in Antony's honor, which oddly enough is actually completed by Augustus. And the obelisks from that, that would have stood in front of the temple, or actually can be found in London and New York, which is, I mean, that's a whole other topic for another time.
I think those are them. There's right there.
So neat.
2 obelisks.
Yeah. Strabo is considered one of our most reliable contemporary sources, and he tells us that the lighthouse was built on the small island of Pharos. The lighthouse of Alexandria is actually known as the Pharos, and it would have been linked to the Great Harbor by a causeway called the Heptastadion. I can never say that word right. As many times as I hear it, it's like a tongue twister.
There's always those.
Yeah. But the accounts have actually been given some weight by marine archaeological excavations in the past 20 so years. One of the most well-known was an excavation, I think in 1994, and it revealed large masonry stones that we actually believe are part of the lighthouse, along with a colossal statue that is considered to be Ptolemy I, and that matches historical accounts as well.
To answer your question, she is a specialist in Roman and Greek Alexandria, the city. So she's in that lovely middle portion of between Egyptology and Roman and Greek, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm on the tail end of it too. So, which will get a lot more fun here in a little bit when I get to start talking about it.
It's getting to the night. It's getting to the night, and I don't want to be in the dark. Let's go back here. Nope. Oh, I forgot. Guys, we can pick who we want to be, but I'm going to make it a day first. As we wait for the sun to go down. So I'll give you all the choice. Who shall we be? We got Bayek and Aya, the main characters of the game. We can be Julius Caesar. We can run around.
Can we not?
Can we not? I agree. And we could be Cleopatra.
Oh, that's an interesting way to have her dress.
Oh, yeah. You'll meet her later in the game. She's an interesting look at her.
Why do they have...
Why is that piece in the middle gone? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's not even just that, but all of it's not...
Yeah. I don't know how it attaches on the top part. Then we have the 2 boring people who are the modern people. We can also be Ptolemy, which is hysterical to me, because of how sad he looks.
He's tired.
He's very tired. We can also be Bayek's son, Camus.
I'm still traumatized.
Traumatized, absolutely.
I don't know if I get a say in this, but I'm gonna have an opinion on every single one.
Another daughter. This cute. Oh, the little merchant kid that you encounter. Another little girl, and then we have just random Egyptian women, Egyptian nobleman, Egyptian noblewoman, Roman soldier, Greek nobleman, Greek noblewoman, and then it kind of...
Well, that outfit's pretty good.
We do have a couple different outfits for Bayek. Persian commander, Egyptian, but he's all got the shaved head, and I don't like him with the shaved head. Rip Bayek's son, absolutely. I heard one vote for Aya, so Aya's our main
Works
girl.
for me.
Yeah, it's funny because we're in the Discovery Tour, Ash. We can be anybody we want to be. We can be any character and stuff. Hi, DJ.
A little kid.
I know. It's all the little kids. So we have a lecture today. I think we're gonna go with Aya. This is the only vote we got. Would you like to move on to somewhere else?
Well, actually, I'd like to talk about how it was built, if
Yeah,
you don't
sure.
mind.
I'm gonna dive down and then we'll walk around it. How about that?
Okay, that sounds great.
Oh, I thought it was gonna dive down all the way, but apparently not.
Nice landing.
But I can go inside of it in certain points. I gotta find the door. But yeah, continue.
Okay.
Alexandria is giving us a lecture about ancient Alexandria, the city. Oh, here's the stairs. Is there no... I'm trying to remember. I literally climbed up this before, but I can't remember how I got in.
Well, there are 3 parts to the library, or to the layout. No, I'm doing it. To the lighthouse.
Sorry. That
was So we believe that there were 3 stages and that they all sloped slightly inward for the building. So you would have had at the bottom would have been a square, and then in the middle you would have had like an octagon, and then at the top it would have been a cylinder. And we don't have any archaeological evidence to back this up. And then I think that this is based off of a lithograph from the 19th century. But we do have historical accounts that say this, and then we also have an Roman imperial coin around the 2nd century CE, which doesn't give much description, but it's something. You do get the 3 sections represented on the coin, but the scale to the statues and the sections it's kind of amusing. But we're not even sure that when the lighthouse was built that it was actually a lighthouse at first.
What could it have been?
Well, one of the first times, well, yeah, I know, but one of the first times we see it mentioned as an operational lighthouse is the 1st century CE. Oh, okay. It's possible that it may have just been a large monument at first and then later adapted into a lighthouse. This is something that's highly debated. We do not know, but it is kind of fun to think about. And then in later Arab texts, there's kind of a mention of a bronze mirror that would have projected the light farther at night and then could have been used in the day, making the lighthouse operational 24/7. So basically you could take this big bronze kind of dome mirror and then you could move it in different directions in order to bounce the light back farther. And we don't know if it was used before the time that it was mentioned, but it would have made sense. More than likely, the flame was made by oil and not timber. So you would have wanted to, like, economically project that farther without having to make the flame bigger. So I think that's one of my favorite parts about it. And I just think it's so cool, the kind of ingenuity that we're getting, even just so early on.
I'm trying to get inside, but I keep falling off the building. There is a door that's open somewhere here, but I've fallen off 3 times.
Oh no. What's so
I literally fell almost the entire height of this thing. I'm trying to find this silly window.
So BioArcMark, I'm gonna go ahead and answer this question while you're climbing.
Yeah.
So it's actually historians that usually contest it rather than archaeologists. Just because the fact that the first mention that we have of this is 1st century CE of it being used as a lighthouse. It would have made sense to have a monument to start with. It could have even been that they made intentionally started making a monument, and it would be really great here, a lighthouse.
All right.
So there's no way for us to really know. We do know that it was an operational lighthouse for a very, 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 very long time, but it is something that you will find people contest here and there.
All right, I got inside. So it's a giant ramp that goes all the way down.
Oh, he called it the Pharos.
Pharaohs.
It was named after.
Which I think I would have to look up. I feel like that has to do with something about how the word pharaoh came about, because it's so close. But I don't know enough about like, I know pharaoh was not the word that we used, that the Egyptians used for their king. That's not the word they used. They used Nisu, which was king. And then Nisu Biti for king of Upper and Lower Egypt. But I'm sure pharaoh comes from it. I would not doubt if it came from that, from calling the lighthouse Pharos. It sounds way too similar for it not to be a coincidence.
Well, if we want to go ahead and make our way to the library, I can give kind of a brief synopsis of the origins of the city.
Perfect. Hysterically. Now I couldn't find my way out, but now I'm out. I'm just gonna fall because no fall damage in this game. Yes, thank you, Ash. Please remember, if you would like to have a question, we are going to have lots of Q&A sessions after we get the game, but we also have a redemption for a channel point that is questions, and so then we can see it light up on our chat, and we can know to look at it if you have any larger questions. Oh, Ramon Graybeard says, Google says that the pharaoh comes from the Great House. Yes, I think that actually is. It's pear. What would great be? What's great? Ooh, great is something. Pear means house, and so it's probably pear ech, maybe. That might be it. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna have to look that up later, but thank you. All right, I'm gonna fast travel.
Okay.
It takes too long. Oh, I forgot.
Well, do you mind if I go into Alexandria while you're doing that, or?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
You want to go to the library, right?
Yes.
Well, we'll just go here. We'll go here.
So the city of Alexandria was formed by Alexander the Great in 332 BCE during his Persian campaign off the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The Macedonian leader built the city off a small Egyptian port. I mean, this was basically a rural fishing area. And it was built to act as a capital and major trade center between Egypt and the rest of the Mediterranean world. It was incredibly strategic. The port was fed by the waters of a lake in the Nile and provided safe anchorage off the island of Pharos. This place, I mean, it's such a sweet spot when we're thinking about access and trade, which are the two main ingredients you want in a successful capital. And Alexandria has this in spades. In terms of a metropolis, this is basically Eden. Historical accounts tell us that Alexander stayed for like a few months and he bails. Starts the city planning and then just takes off. But like, he had a job to do. He didn't just say, bye Felicia and run. He had to continue on his campaign. So he left the city planning to his commander. But what you're seeing here, the palaces and the grandeur, this can all arguably be attributed to Alexander's general Ptolemy I, and then his successors, Ptolemy II, Ptolemy III. Alexander the Great can take credit, though, for setting the blueprint of embracing, which is a very loose term here, Egyptian culture that lasts through the Ptolemaic dynasty. And Alexander, in an act of arguably cunning diplomacy, aligns himself within Egyptian culture. And his time in Egypt is marked by the planning of Alexandria and then the pilgrimage to the Oracle of Ammon and Siwa, which is that what you explore in the prologue of the game?
Yeah, so Bayek is from Siwa. So the majority of the very beginning of the game, you are located over at the oasis.
Okay. That's so interesting. Okay. So historical accounts of that are like sensational at best, so I'm not going to even try and get into them. They talk about, miraculous things that happened to him on the way to the Oracle and all of this stuff. But and our most reliable account on that is actually from Arian, who lived in the 2nd century CE. So we're talking like over 400 years.
Yeah, that always happens, man.
Yeah, right? I know.
Somebody so later is like, I want to tell this account, and you're like, and
Sure,
people
bro.
just trusted it 100% for a long time.
The reason that we think he is the most reliable source is that he's actually going off of letters from Alexander's generals. So he's at least getting good source
Some sort of
material.
primary source material, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. But what we can surmise from all of that is that solidifying Alexander solidifying himself in the eyes of the Egyptians as a legitimate Egyptian ruler would have been a major priority. He would have had 2 feet, one in the Hellenistic and one in the Egyptian world, at least in the sense of propaganda. So trying to provide proof of coming from a pharaonic line would have appeared crucial. So whether the oracle was trying to like redeem favor or what the actual translation was is debated, but we can gather that his political spectacle was successful. And then Ptolemy follows suit by representing both Greek and Egyptian to help solidify himself as an Egyptian ruler. So the last Ptolemaic ruler, Cleopatra, is the only one that we think learned the Egyptian language. But the dynasty does use Egyptian pharaoh in propaganda. So that is something that can be hard to differentiate, is that on the other side of not using themselves in propaganda material, they're operating 100% as Grecian monarchs.
All right. Load. I think we are now at the library. I gotta make sure. I think this is the library. Yeah, because over there is the over there is the palace. So I think this is the library. I've actually been doing a lot of research on obelisks recently because
cool.
I did a video on the New York City Cleopatra's Needle, which ironically Cleopatra never saw that obelisk, which is hysterical that now those two are called Cleopatra's Needles, but she never saw them, because they were brought to Alexandria by Augustus, and they're originally from Tutmosis III. And then Ramses the Great went and put 2 more lines of text on it, and he claimed them, which he did.
Wow.
Oh, he did all the time. He would just literally take so much things from everybody else, and when he built his own stuff, he actually would mark the bottom of the obelisk, and then it would be upright so that nobody, no matter what, no matter how many people would change it, it would still be his in the eyes of the gods. And it's like such a move.
Oh dear.
But yeah, so they're known as Cleopatra's Needles, but they were originally made for Tutmosis III and then rewritten for Ramses the Great, and then taken by the Romans and put in front of the temple for Mark Antony, or for Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. All right, let's go inside the library.
So I'm actually going to start at the end of the library, because
go for it.
What is the library without a little fire?
Oh, yes.
As much as I would love to tell you all that the burning of the Library of Alexandria was this tragic event, poignant, burning to the ground, all the information lost in flames, it's not actually fully accurate. There are several attacks to the library that mention fire. And of course, the most well-known was the fire of Julius Caesar, who commanded that the ships blocking the port be torched. And then here we get the story that the fire kind of spread through the city, burning the library. But accounts, even by Caesar himself, and I will point out, I mean, Caesar probably is going to want to paint this as not that big of a deal. But none of the accounts really support this. We're told that they quickly garrisoned the lighthouse, that the buildings of Alexandria, they're made through masonry and therefore can't just be burned rapidly in the way that we're thinking. And we know that later Diocletian, the Emperor Diocletian, does order the contents of the library to be burned. And we do have accounts of timber being used in like tactical construction around the city, but overall, we don't believe that a fire alone destroyed the whole of the contents in the library. The loss is just, it's much more gradual and is actually more steeped in politically using zealots and weaponizing anti-intellectualism than fire and civil war. So there are actually technically 2 libraries that hosted the intellectual documents. But it's thought that the Great Library may have held anywhere up to 400,000 to 700,000 rolls of papyrus. Basically, it was a lot. Sorry, I saw Agar on it. Yes, I have seen Agar. Rachel Weisz is my favorite actress. So I was like, yeah, someone's seen that movie. But I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket that it was 700,000 because this estimate actually comes after the burning of the what was left over by Diocletian. So we have no way of knowing exactly how many scrolls were housed there. But to hit back on the theory of the library losing everything at once, 2 libraries meant that there was sort of a backup system in place. Though it wasn't as extensive, it probably held copies of the most important works of the time. And the second library is actually thanks to Ptolemy III. It was known as the Serapeum of Alexandria, and it was actually a temple dedicated to Serapis, who was made the protector of Alexandria, and it is written to be the sister library. Serapis is actually another really cool example of Ptolemaic dynasty integrating Greek and Egyptian culture when it was profitable. Serapis is a blend of Greek and Egyptian mythology, and this aided in the assimilation in Hellenistic culture. Kind of created a new dynastic cult built on similarities.
So this is the Serapeon in this game. And we can go up there as well.
Oh, that's so neat.
There's also lots of books in there. So the library is that big building, and the Serapeon is this whole thing up here. Let's run over there.
So inside should actually be something of Serapis.
Yes,
I would assume. I haven't seen it. Okay. I didn't know that they had this until today, and I was so excited.
D-Day Shmay, can you repeat your question for Alexandria while I run over to the Serapeon? His question basically was, who were the bad guys here? Which I assume meaning who took down the library. But if you can clarify, that would be
yeah. So we'll also get into this later when we discuss Hypatia of Alexandria, which the movie Agora that was mentioned before kind of centers around everything that happened to her. But there is no one bad guy. You have Rome, who with Julius Caesar is trying to gain control. Diocletian orders the desecration of the document or the scrolls in the Great Library of Alexandria, though that isn't necessarily an anti-pagan or anti-intellectual thing, because we do not see Christianity becoming part of the Roman Empire until Constantine, who is after Diocletian. But the very last destruction of the materials, which were still being housed in the Serapeum, comes from a bishop and a Christian zealot. So, and I say that, I want to put a disclaimer. He did come way later. Yes. But I mean, we're talking, and you have multiple fires. You have Zenobia, who was acting against the Roman Empire, who comes after. And we're talking spanning hundreds and hundreds of years here. I mean, the library just keeps getting hit, which is why it is this long, drawn out loss each time.
See, I know Zenobia, but I cannot remember where I know that name from. It definitely sounds familiar, but I don't think I remember it from there. I don't know why I know that name.
Well, I can, if you can give me 1 second, because I don't want to do that off the top of my head, because it's not...
Freya, I will roughly answer your question. Alexandria might have a little bit more detail, but the city of Alexandria is really... It has been excavated in a lot of senses, but ever since the Greek and Roman Empire, it has been heavily, heavily populated and has expanded much deeper into all areas. So I'm not familiar with any examples of an excavation where they believe the library was. I also know, if this game is even semi-accurate and it was close to the water, I also know there's probably a high chance that it had flooded and sunk into the Mediterranean, because most of Alexandria, or at least ancient Alexandria, has sunk. They have a whole section of I have, like, I'm not even joking, I have 3 books on this underwater excavation that they call it Cleopatra's Palace, but I'm not exactly sure how much concrete evidence they have about that portion of it being sunk actually being the palace. They just keep finding, like they have amazing, huge Egyptian style stela. They have like some sphinxes and stuff, like, but they've kind of all called it Cleopatra's Palace. But I'm not sure how. Underwater archaeology is always a little bit fuzzy, because you can't get good layouts of buildings and streets, and especially with a place that has fully sunk and not just been flooded but sunk. You're not going to get that great example. But do you have any idea of excavations about the library?
All I have found is that we do not have any remnants of the contents, and that is where whether people are talking about like the Library of Alexandria fire or not, it's equally as sad, because we don't have this information anymore. There are some that believe that, and I'm saying this with a grain of salt because I actually haven't looked into this, but there are some that believe that, it would have been kind of silly to think that house, the only intellectual works, and that there wasn't any other copies kind of floating around out there. So while we did lose a massive amount, we didn't lose everything.
I had always heard something that supposedly, as scrolls and as pieces of literature and everything would come into Alexandria, that they were sometimes copied and then put into the library. And I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that also implies that there is another copy somewhere else.
Yes, so that's the acquisition of books from the ships is what we call it. And then unlike the burning of Alexandria, this one actually holds weight. So at one point between Ptolemy the First and Ptolemy the Third, we do believe that Alexandria resorted to searching for written material on board ships, or requiring them. Oh, is it? I can hear you.
It's the Indiana Jones theme song. Thank you so much. Biracial Spike Lee, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream.
Yay! But yeah, so they would search ships, or at least make them claim them at port. But then they didn't. I wouldn't say that they stole them. So
I see.
Basically, they would confiscate them for like a little bit. They would look over it, figure out if this was intellectual or cultural value, and then they would compensate the original owner.
I see.
And then would immediately make a copy, which, could you imagine? It's like having to make a copy within, whatever the duration is that they're going to be there.
They have to have hired a very large group of, because I'm sure ships are coming in there every single day. They had to hire a really huge amount of scribes to be able to. And I'm not sure, in comparison to Egypt, the scribe class was quite high and there weren't very many. And I'm sure by the time Greeks come in, they have probably a larger population of scribes and a larger population of people who can read and write. But it's still probably going to be pretty high.
It would have been massive. And Alexandria, especially when we get to the Great Library, you're getting people from all over the Hellenistic world who are wanting to come and kind of converse with like-minded people, people who follow the same philosophical principles. There were 3 main schools that were housed within the library. And so, whether they kind of, freelanced that work or not, I don't know. But we do know that they would make a copy, and then they would give the copy back to the original owner. So all the original texts are being housed at the library or the Serapeum.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I think it's so cool.
Yeah, it's very much
I know.
like it's the they didn't totally steal it, but
Not exactly. I
it's
mean, they're
very similar to
complicated.
kind of how modern customs works, and like in places like Australia and like island countries where they have to take stuff because they're like, hey, this is not allowed on our animal products and things with seeds and weird stuff like that. So it's like, sorry, like this is just the rules of where we are. I'm gonna take, but I think it's so interesting to do that with books, to do that with
Hmm.
knowledge. It just
Hmm.
shows that the culture had such a high appreciation for knowledge and acquiring knowledge,
Hmm.
which sometimes we can always say that the Egyptians did, but sometimes you don't have as great evidence
Mm.
as this is. This is just straight up evidence that yes, they wanted to do this.
Right. And then, but that's not the only way that they acquired text as well. I mean, we have Ptolemy the Third trying, and trying is the main word. He didn't fully succeed, but
Okay.
trying to use diplomacy to gain materials from Athens.
Oh,
They ended up sending copies and reneging on the deal. They didn't want to give the originals. They're like,
well,
we thought it over and we decided no. But then there's also accounts that a lot of the stuff was just outright paid for
mm,
uh, from Athens and Rhodes to gain the original text. So, with all that in mind, the Great Library really is our first example of a global research center.
that is really
And
cool.
we don't exactly know how the Great Library would have looked.
Mm-hmm.
This rendering again is based off of a lithograph from the 19th century,
Mm-hmm.
which is going off of accounts of the Library of um, Celsus, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think. We know that there were probably separate areas for research and gatherings. Anything mentioned, like rooms or dining, um, wouldn't have been directly inside the library itself. And that is because the library is actually part of a much larger intellectual and entertainment district uh, known as the Museum of Alexandria,
Oh, I did not know
which
that.
is, yeah, which is based off of a Greek word meaning Temple of the Muses, I believe. I have that written, and I
That
can
I mean that
never.
makes sense to me.
But sorry, my notes have gotten all
That's okay.
disheveled.
We are right here in the Serapeum, which Alexandra told us is kind of the secondary sister library. And so the way that they've outlined this kind of in Assassin's Creed is they have this center sanctuary with a giant statue of Serapis, and then over here are all these different little like library reading rooms. Um, and then in the back, there's also something
Oh,
different.
Shrine of the Muses. I was so
Oh, Shrine
close.
of the Muses. Yeah.
Yes. So Mosaion, which is Greek, means Shrine of the Muses, and that's where we get museum, which is Latin.
I actually
So
took the discovery tour for the Serapeum, so I they explained what these rooms are, and so they explained that Serapis was kind of a healing deity, and so that sometimes people would, if you're sick, would stay in the back rooms and hope that the god could help you. So they have that's kind of how they set it up in this game is that they have a couple little rooms with some sick people.
still like a quarantine room.
Yeah, little quarantine room of
If
just
you're
people
if you're
waiting
gonna be quarantined
for
though,
the
you
priest
know.
to see them. Yeah. But it's up on a huge Acropolis in
Hmm.
Alexandria, so it does give like full like 360 view of what is left. What is the weird version of Alexandria where there's a lake immediately behind you, but even though there's not.
If we can make our way back to the the Great Library,
Yep,
because we are getting to my favorite part.
these people need to get out of
I'm
my
so
way. There's no way to walk very slowly in this game, and so if you run into somebody, you just full on shove them.
well, they yell at you
They
too.
do
They're
yell
like,
at you.
"What?" They act so traumatized, especially because I have a problem running over them with my camel. I don't mean
Oh,
to.
in this game,
I'm a
I
bad
think in the
camel
discovery
driver.
tours they don't distinctly yell at you, but you still do
Oh,
shove.
okay.
You still do shove them.
I didn't
Um,
realize that was a thing until I started playing, and I was very traumatized. I was like, "I'm so
I
sorry."
say sorry all the time. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Oh, and then can I ask you a question game
Yeah,
wise while you're going there?
go for it.
Okay. when you destroy a target, are you moving them, like hiding them in the bushes? Because I'm under the impression that I have to do that every single time, and you will just hear me complaining under my breath every time I have to move these very big, burly men.
I typically only go and hide somebody if I am, say, raiding an entire fort, and like slowly but surely, like I go and I pick off somebody, and either I chuck them off the wall. That was my number one thing, is which I not joke you. I played the entire thing of Origins, and I did not know that I could actually throw them by using the control for like when you shoot an arrow. I just let them kind of naturally fall off the wall. And then finally, not even joking, a couple weeks ago, somebody was like, "Oh yeah, you can like actually chuck them off the wall." Yeah, or I hide them in a bush. Otherwise, I just run. I try to get
Flee
away.
out.
All right,
Oh
we
my
are
goodness.
back
All right.
in one
Could
part of the library.
Awesome. Could you head to the armillary sphere? It should be in the center of the
The
library.
center. Let me look at the map just to make sure I'm in the center. I think I'm there. Yeah. Right. Sphere.
And if it's not in the center of the library, it should have been in the center of the library.
What is what did you say? A sphere, or is it a
Uh,
statue?
it's an armillary sphere, so it's a big celestial, almost like a skeleton globe.
Let's see if it's in this room. It might be in this room. Oh wait, it's over there. I found it. It's in
Yay!
All right. Ooh. Okay.
Isn't she beautiful?
She is.
Oh my goodness. So I originally thought this was the one that was invented by
Can I click it?
Hipparchus.
I'm gonna interact with it. I don't know what it's gonna do.
Okay,
Oh, it
we
just
can wait a second.
I thought I was gonna move it. I was really excited.
Shh, this is my part. It's
Oh,
gonna do all my work for me.
Go
No,
ahead.
I'm kidding. So I thought that this was the Hipparchus sphere, which would have probably been the sphere in the library during this time. It was invented in 200 BCE. And this could still be like a Frankenstein representation of this. I'm not actually sure because it has a lot more detail. This may be nodding to the meteoroscopian, which is our first example of a complete armillary sphere. And that was made in Alexandria, but not until the 2nd century CE by Ptolemy, not the ruler, the astronomer. This would have been crucial to the contemporary idea of astronomy. It was used to track and calculate the placements of stars and planets from our view in the night sky. And you have to remember that at this time, the Earth is still considered to be the center of the universe. So you see a couple philosophers that suggest the sun may be the center as early as 3rd century BCE, but overall, the Earth as central was an accepted truth till about the 16th century. So at this point in time, its main function was to use the rings that you see in the middle there for observing the main celestial bodies. Eventually, it would become more multifaceted, and it would be used to determine the sunrise and set. It determined the positions of stars. It explained the meaning of right ascension and declination. Which is celestial latitude and longitude. And it measured the equator and could locate the North Star. So we still measure astronomically within this concept of a celestial sphere. And our modern telescopes still have rings to measure right ascension and declination, which echo this early tool. Now, the celestial sphere, which is represented by those rings, is this imaginary sphere around our globe. So to try and create like a basic visual of what I mean by all of this, especially with right ascension and declination, imagine that you're standing directly on the equator. And you looked, thinking 3-dimensional, you're on the, this is the equator, you're on the equator here, and you're looking straight up into the night sky. You're going to be essentially looking at a celestial equator. So when you move your line of vision from that spot, you're getting coordinates along the declination. At the celestial equator, it's going to measure 0 degrees declination, whereas the North Star, or Polaris, is a 90-degree declination, and then the south is negative 90 degrees. So right ascension is measured in time, which is basically measuring how far left we are going to our point within a curve. And declination is measured by degrees in conjunction to the angle of the celestial equator. So some attribute this armillary sphere to be the mother of the astrolabe, which is my personal favorite navigation instrument. And that's this sphere is used all the way through the 19th century.
Wow.
And that's outlasting. Yeah, it's crazy. And it outlasts the astrolabe in the Western world. I feel like I just glitched there.
That's okay.
To use it, you would move the rings in the center to demonstrate the movement around the Earth. And the rings are very carefully divided into angular measurements. And then the thicker band, which you can see there, is positioned opposite of those 4 rings that you see in the middle that are encasing that sphere. That is the represented path of the sun, which is called the ecliptic, and it crosses the zodiac constellations. So by moving those rings, you could track and determine where the celestial bodies were around the globe. And we'll be looking at 2 other astronomical tools now as we go away from Assassin's Creed and start looking more into mathematics and engineering.
Cool. I'm not even joking. I don't think I ever went in this room. I did go in the library, but I did not know this was here. So
someone has an astrolabe.
Very, very cool.
That
I'm
is
looking
so
at
cool.
all the zodiac signs on the edges.
So the thing that you see, is it on, so I can't actually see it that much in detail. I can just see a small screen. So but are the zodiacs on the like legs, or are they on
so there's the big sloping thing which is attached to the legs, and then the first circle that's right next to it, all of the zodiacs are around that.
Around the big circle there. So that may be what they're using to represent the
I can't walk, but like right next to where Aya's head is, I think is that Aquarius? I think it's Aquarius. I can't remember. I only know mine wherever it is.
And I think something that's important to mention too is that
I can't find it.
Astronomy and astrology are very closely interconnected at this time. Astrology is considered to be a philosophical and scientific area that would work in conjunction with astronomy.
Yeah. And then there's this thing. This isn't that the thing that like captains, like ships use?
Yeah, that may be a sextant, but that's not invented yet, so I wouldn't.
Which, yeah, it looks like a sextant, but it's also weirdly on, like just sitting attached to a pole for some.
That's interesting. I don't know what they're trying to do there.
Move away.
I
can.
We don't see that until.
The way the Discovery Tour works is that there are little spots that I can stand, that my character can stand, and she will like mimic stuff. So like because I moved that guy out of the way, now I'm like I pulled out a piece of paper and I'm looking at something. I don't know what, but apparently
that is so cool.
Apparently I am.
Sorry, the Greeks were like super nerds. They were. That's why I love them.
They were super nerds. I know Didi the Smay said, so these guys, ancient guys, didn't believe that in flat Earth, and they are smarter than the crazy people today. Absolutely crazy.
Yes, you will find that most intellectual minds, all the way from antiquity, knew that the Earth was round. So
yeah. Move out of the way, sir. I would like to take your spot and teach people, but.
This is dangerous. I did not know you could do this. I'm just gonna
I know.
Go live this out.
I want to shove him though. He won't let me. They won't let me get out. There's like too many actual people here giving talks. All right. Anything else? Oh wait, sorry. I saw one. Now I'm curious what it is. Oh, it's just I can sit if I stand on this. Um,
Oh,
is
goodness.
there anything else we'd like to see in Origins before we continue?
Well, personally, yes, but I don't have anything written down for
Personally,
this.
of course.
Could
Um,
spend all day here.
I will do one last little overview with the hawk, and then we will move on. But if anybody has any questions for Alexandria, please, please, please pose them now as we turn in between, and then we'll learn more about some mathematicians that are from this time period and from Alexandria as well. So, City of Alexandria at night.
Oh, it's so pretty.
I know. I didn't even. It's been a long time since I've explored the city because it's like one of the first places you kind of go in, like after you leave Siwa. So like I haven't been back there honestly a long time. Oh, this is the. I was gonna say. I was like, what is that thing? This is the Tomb of Alexander, I think.
Oh, okay.
If that has that little symbol. Oh no, never mind. It says leather and linen in ancient Egypt, but I think that's supposed to be. It should say actually. I think that's supposed to be his tomb. I can't remember. You do go there sometime. But all right. Think anybody have any questions? Oh,
I'm saying a lot.
Harushakiman. If the ancient Greeks believed that the world was spherical, what did they think was on the other side? That's a very deep question.
It is a very deep question. I think it would depend on what era we're talking about.
That's true.
Not that era is the correct word, but
What period of time?
because if we're thinking about archaic Greeks, it's still so steeped within Homeric mythology that there's no telling. If we're talking about just Hellenistic Alexandria, Egypt, or even Roman Alexandria, Egypt, I would assume, because this is when we start seeing a really great push in geography, that there was this sense of the unknown and a curiosity to know what was on the other side.
Mm-hmm. That's always a possibility. I'm gonna scroll back. Freya said, "Did they believe in a dome Earth or a fully round Earth?" That was one of the past questions.
So when we get to the creation of the armillary sphere, it is a full spherical Earth. Especially when you start thinking about the celestial sphere. I mean, that's encompassing 360 around the Earth. So it wouldn't have worked if it was a dome.
I'm scrolling back and seeing if there's anything else. And if you don't mind, did you send me the PowerPoint link?
Oh, I thought I did. Did it not?
No,
It may have
it's
not
fine.
worked.
I
No,
had to close my Discord, so if you sent it there,
it may not have. My phone has been ringing out, but I do have it. I can send it to you now.
okay, yeah, go for it. Mark says he always hides people in the bushes when he kills them.
So and I saw someone mention the fact that you're not actually, well, they were like, it's a good thing that you don't have to actually expel any real energy to do it in a game, but it feels like it.
It does.
I understand that I'm not, but it's the mental labor. It's the emotional labor.
One of the very big differences between Odyssey and Origins that doesn't make me like Odyssey is that in Origins, when you're getting ganged up on, they like to take turns, and so they don't all attack you at the same time. So they kind of just all wait, and they're all kind of like this and just like waiting. So you can kill like one person, like completely dispose of the body, and like then work on the next guy. But in Odyssey, if you are attacking somebody, the other dudes will straight on keep hitting you, and it annoys me. It obviously is more realistic, but I don't like it. So Herodotus did talk a lot of BS. Yeah, we take it all with a grain of salt. I'm sure there are good things. Oh, hello, Shane McInnes. I'm sorry, I didn't say hello. Welcome. He's another historian we have.
Oh, nice.
Welcome. Um, this is why Herodotus talked about so many people groups. The Greeks figured out that they were people all over, and he's in the 400s BC. So yeah, he did go around for sure. I learned that the Greeks were also kind of full of themselves, like everyone north of Greece. The Greek people called barbarians. Alexandra and I were just talking about this
Yes.
when we were prepping
Yeah.
for the lecture, and
So,
I think it's a really easy reason why the Greeks seem to get along with the Egyptians, because the Egyptians were also extremely full of themselves, and I talk about the Egyptians being an extremely proud people and a little bit racist against everybody else. I don't know if that's technically racism if they're racist against everybody else. Like,
just very, very bigoted.
yeah,
Or
very, very bigoted, very much thinks that they are the best. And it's no wonder that they were able to kind of meld so well, surprisingly. Yeah.
well, and you see that with the Roman Empire as well. So
Mm-hmm.
barbarian comes from the Greek word barbaros, which means Greek speaking. So, or it referred to anyone who was not Greek speaking. And then Rome takes this a step farther and is like, well, barbarian now means anyone who doesn't possess Hellenistic or Roman culture. It was like another way of othering people, because the main objective in having an empire that was successful over a long spreading out over a map is that you're going to have assimilation. So you're going to have city plans and culture that needs to be similar in order to get propaganda out quickly, in order to control easier. So in order to assimilate places that you're conquering, you need to make sure that there's this like status. Am I still there?
Yes, you are still here.
Oh, okay. I
I shared the screen with you.
Okay. I was like, oh, I'm just rambling and I have no idea.
No, I was
I'm
just
still
getting your
okay.
PowerPoint set up.
Nice.
There we go. I think it's working.
My whole screen wigged out and it just went white and I didn't see anything, and so I panicked, but we're okay.
You're good. You're still here. Weirman Beards is critiquing my Assassin's Creed. I know that I don't know how to parry. Just to move on, I will never learn. I've gotten good at blocking and avoiding, but I will never know how to parry. I feel like all cultures were racist to some degree because a lot of people only knew about their own cultures from propaganda and not firsthand experiences. Very true. I mean, when we're talking ancient cultures, yeah, that definitely could definitely apply. And there are definitely cultures that were completely isolated from the world. Obviously, the Romans were not, but and then later Egyptians weren't. They were able to expand over, but early Egyptians didn't really get out much. And even if they did, it was in really small parties that they didn't really go and settle anywhere else. They would go and get the stuff, or they would do the trade and then come back. They really didn't really start settling other places. They never really conquered a lot of places, really. Just a little bit of the Levant. And I don't know, it's not really talked about much. Like we know that they were there. We have evidence. We have scarabs. We have writings from there. We don't. It's not like the Roman Empire, like and how much building they would do and all of this stuff. It was kind of a muted little empire. Yeah, I know racist isn't the right word, Shane. Cultural superiority definitely is. That I'm going to use that from now on, because I was just trying to think of what is the word that you use. They're bigoted. They're prejudiced against everyone besides themselves. All right. I am going to turn on a little bit of chill music.
Ooh. I'm a fan of background music.
It's on this. I'm going to turn down this volume. Okay, that should be quite enough. All right. Any last questions before we start the next half? I did get one on TikTok, but I don't understand the question.
Oh no.
I think it says, is Cleopatra brother under the Nile River? Which is a no, but...
No.
He's dead.
That would be a really cool
but
story.
he's not under the Nile River, so I'm not exactly sure what that question's supposed to mean. All right, so let me switch back over. Ta-da! All right, perfect. So feel free to go ahead and just let me know when you want me to change the slide.
Well, I'm not seeing have you shared with me yet?
Oh, no, I did not.
Okay.
I unshared it and then I put it, made it big and then forgot to share it. Boop, boop. And then make it big. All right. Actually,
Nice. I can see it now.
okay, I'm gonna switch that up a little bit. Last time I was able to make it bigger, so I think I have to make it big first and then share it with you. There we go. Okay. All right. All right, can you see it?
Awesome. Yes, I can see it.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
We're all experimenting with this guest star program, but it seems like, cross your fingers, guys, it seems like it's working.
It's been good so far.
Yeah.
So arguably, the city of Alexandria's contributions to astronomy may be its most potent and powerful. Astronomy, especially within antiquity, wasn't just a philosophical study or placements of the heavens, but it was essential to our everyday existence. Time, navigation, seasons, they all depended on our understanding of basic astronomy. Now, Eratosthenes, the third highest ranking member of the Library of Alexandria, measured the Earth over 2,000 years ago because of the intellectual knowledge of the Earth's spherical form in conjunction to the movement of the sun. This provided us with a measurement of the circumference of the Earth. While it was already a held belief, this was empirical evidence of our conception of the celestial sphere. Then you have Aristarchus, who gives an almost fully accurate measurement of the circumference of the moon, somewhere between 215 BCE. I believe he may have been one of the first to suggest that the sun was actually the center of the universe as well. Apart from this, we see multiple polymaths coming from Alexandria, and that basically means like Renaissance man. They were experts in multiple fields. They were melding their mathematical and philosophical ideas of the universe, which laid the foundations for our modern understanding of science and space. Now, my absolute, you can, if you want to go ahead and turn to the next slide, you can. My absolute favorite ancient navigation tool is the astrolabe. I've already said this once. I will probably say it like 10 more times. I have one, which is a replica of an Arabic astrolabe.
Oh my gosh.
So it's slightly different than the Hellenistic one. The origins of the astrolabe actually date back over 2,000 years. And an astrolabe measures the position of the stars, which can help with navigation, determining time, determining the time of year, latitude, longitude of an object on the horizon. And it is often referred to as the first handheld computer, which people get a little touchy when you say computer. But it's because it's an analog computer. It's an operating system. And this is because of we're singing again.
Thank you so much for Madeline.
Yay!
Welcome to the Mummies. Continue.
No, you're fine. That makes me so excited every time I hear it.
It does not make sense in my head, and I want to understand this. For my father, who worked for NASA, my grandpa worked for NASA, I would like to try to understand how it is, and how it is a computer, but it also is not a computer.
So people usually think of computer as, I think of just like our modern operating system, so they can get a little touchy when you mention the term computer when you're talking about analog systems. But it is a computer because it has so many multiple functions that can be used quickly and can gather information accurately. It was also incredibly easy to use once you kind of got the hang of it. The astrolabe was historically like a 6-inch inscribed brass disc, but more features were added to the two-dimensional celestial sphere over time. There are also, you'll find smaller and larger versions of the astrolabe throughout history. And as you can see, mine, which I've now taken apart, is mine is pretty tiny. Mine is also, because it is a replica, it's not functionable. So I'm if you want me to give you a measurement, it's not going to happen, but I can kind of show you what it does.
Do you technically know how to do one if you had a real one?
If I had a real one, I might. So one of the
Very
main
impressive.
fun fact, one of the main reasons that I applied to go back to, so I'm 31 years old. I am back in school in archaeology. And the whole main reason why I was like, it has to be Oxford or nothing is because they have the biggest archive of astrolabes.
How many we talking?
You know what? I actually don't know, and it's probably good that I don't.
Amazing.
I know they're housed at the Museum of the History of Science, and then I have to go to Oxford, so it's a hybrid program. So I do my research study and stuff here, and then I have to go spend so much time on campus. When I go, that's where you're going to be able to find me. I'm just going to be searching for those astrolabes.
Yeah.
But the last time I showed an astrolabe to a group of 4th graders, the consensus was it was just an ancient turntable.
Oh, well.
And that's because you get all of these discs. Can you see it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I should probably.
And they have little engravings on them, right?
They do have engravings on them. Because mine is a replica Arabic astrolabe, which is it was a very special gift that was given to me when I started taking Modern Standard Arabic. So this one has navigation, but also religious functions as well. It can help you pinpoint the exact location of the Mecca, which is very important. But it is capable of measuring celestial bodies in the sky, and I thought that I could probably put this together while talking, and I can't, so please hold.
That's okay.
We cannot do 2 things at once. So basically you would choose the disc that you would want, and this is going to be really interesting to do in just a decorative one. But we're almost there.
This is so cool.
I feel like I'm playing that cup stacking game that was like really popular in like 2010. You're like,
yes.
That's me right now trying to get all of this together. Okay.
We had to do that in elementary school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in gym.
Oh,
we had
your
cup stacking.
school is way cooler than mine.
One of our sections of gym. I was in like 4th grade. I got really good at it.
So basically you would hold this up in front of you, and then you would have, this is a very tiny one, which is why it's not, you would have an instrument here that would align with your eye towards the horizon, and then you would be able to pinpoint the measurement of what you're looking for navigation.
Interesting.
Now, I do not think I explained that in any way that made sense, but
makes sense to me.
It's very cool. I love it so much. And it was something that you would find that like everyone would have. So it might be hung around your waist or whatever. So you could easily navigate the seas. So astrolabes can also measure the time of day. It uses really like a mobile, it was used as a mobile sundial.
It's so weird to think about that people didn't everyone had a different concept of time and like how time went on, but then you're like, but how do I know how long it goes? I guess the thing is like the ancient Egyptians had a 24-hour day, but like how did you know how long an hour was? And it's like in my mind it's always sometimes hard because I'm very a scheduled hourly kind of, I always need to know what time it is. And if I can't imagine how I would navigate my life without knowing what time it is, or had to look at a sundial and had to figure out which I'm sure it came very easily to people then to be able to figure out quickly, but I still can't really read a hand's clock.
I love that.
Not that great.
I'm learning so much about you today.
It's the thing about that I'm not dyslexic, but sometimes everything just looks like it's all the same, and it's just like a lot of lines, and I'm like, I just have to think about it. I obviously don't have to think about it if it's numbers.
No, I get it. But So a digital clock is fine for you, but like
Yeah. It's just like
okay.
sometimes if I look at it, it's hard to tell. The weird part about it is a clock to me is all I always think of the four quadrants. So I have to like if I'm ever having to figure out how long so because I work in DC and it takes me about an hour to get back. If I have an appointment at a certain time, but it's not on the hour or on the half hour, everything goes in quadrants for me. So I'm just like, okay, if it's at 45, then you take one quadrant, two quadrant, three quadrant. It's all like I'm better with shapes, I think, than with numbers, which very makes sense why I like geometry more than trigonometry or calculus or algebra. It's all kind of weirdly about shapes, but I also don't have a concept of time in the sense that like what is it now? It's 9:16. At this point, it's pretty much 9:30 in my head. Like that's for some reason
I do that too.
like
It drives
40
my husband nuts.
40 is almost like if it's 9:40, it is almost 10. There's like that 20-minute time increments do not make sense in my head, and even 15 ones,
Mm-hmm.
because in my mind 10 minutes is a very short amount of time. So 15
Mm-hmm.
is not much longer than that, even though 10 minutes is a considerable amount of time. And it is why I will be promptly early to most things, and sometimes literally way too early. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've recently for my Saturday job, because I have to park in a parking garage that gets full really quickly, I've been getting there an hour early. And like completely by accident, because I know I have to be there at 10:30 or 10:45 is when I start, and then I'm like, okay, but I should leave here at 9 or 9:30, even though it only takes me 20 minutes. So I get there like a full half hour or to hour before, and I just like, it's okay, I'll just go to Starbucks, I'll just stay at the farmer's market,
It's
I'll just bum
fine.
around and do nothing, because I know
That
that
sounds nice.
at least my yeah it is actually quite nice, and I do like it. But sometimes I get very annoyed because I'm just like on the cold, when it was in the winter and it was cold, I was like, I gotta go find somewhere warm to go sit because I can't go around the farmer's market for too long.
I think that's a great way to live.
It is.
I think that's awesome.
One question from my friend Pode. Which was the greatest navigation at that time? Was it through the Mediterranean, or were there other places, I guess? Because I guess at the time they were only really sailing through the Mediterranean. Is it only, it's weird to think that they would make all of this stuff to navigate the ocean, and they only have one ocean, kind of.
Mm.
So I
You know,
guess
I don't actually know. That's a really good question.
they did
Because
include a Wikipedia for the early world maps, so hopefully Poe will look at that.
but
Yeah.
we do know that things like this, like with the astrolabe and stuff, that they weren't necessarily just using them on the ocean. I mean, it's a great navigational tool to use on a ship. It's a multi-angle measurement tool with a star chart. You can't really get much better than that, which is why it's used all the way up to the 18th century,
Wow.
when it just starts becoming obsolete by the time we get to like the Age of Enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
But you could use it on land.
Yeah.
So it's basically pinpointing an object's altitude on the horizon.
Oh,
So as long as you have a horizon, you can be using instruments like an astrolabe. You don't have to use it just for the ocean.
wow.
I would suspect that it was, especially in the period that we're talking about, and then we're going to get into geography in just a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it would have probably been more used, and I think someone just actually said this kind of, but it would have been more used for things like trade
Mm-hmm.
than necessarily exploration at this point.
Yeah. It's a very good point, Real Growbeards, but I actually do not know. At least from my knowledge, I don't think the Romans sailed around Spain and France. I think they went to Britain by land. That's with obviously the jump over the channel. But I don't think that they sailed through the Straits of Gibraltar. At least probably in their initial way to get there, because at that point I know that they were in Gaul and they were in that kind of I think Brittany is like northern France, I think, and I know they were over there, so I would assume that they would have traveled by land mostly, because we know they had all of that. We know they had literally everything, and that Britain was one of the last places to get, and then maybe they started to do sailing on the way back. But I think I don't know that much about the Romans, but I feel like they had a much stronger infantry and army base than they did naval base.
I believe that this is true. Again, like, just to point out that I studied basically when Rome has already fallen.
Yeah.
They're still holding on to the Eastern Roman Empire, but the point that I come in and start to heavily research, all of that is kind of going up in flames.
Based on that, the majority of the places that they conquered, they did not conquer by water. They conquered by
and then when you hear about them getting defeated a lot, it is a naval defeat. So I would agree with that assumption, but I know what I'm researching tonight.
Yeah, because we know they obviously had to take the jump over to northern Africa and to Egypt, but I mean, they conquered all the way up almost to the top of Britain, so majority of that is probably by land. There's a preserved ship at Herculaneum. I've been to Herculaneum. I did not know that there was a preserved ship carrying amphora from Britain.
Neat.
Yeah, and it probably would have been much faster. It takes a long time, and the area in between Spain and France is really bad. Has really bad storms for ships. Check out my TikTok that will eventually be coming out about how they lost one of the Cleopatra's Needles obelisks because of a storm in that sea. It's a crazy ass story. I have a TikTok coming out sometime soon. They lost a 200-ton obelisk, and the Spanish pretty much almost took it for ransom. And then
I feel like that's just the universe.
Yeah. The Americans did it better, surprisingly. They were able to they apparently lost their rudder, the entire rudder of a ship, but they were able to get it all the way to New York, and it was fine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. All right.
Wow.
Hi,
well, unfortunately, we are done talking about the astrolabe. I think I had like another slide just so that I could show it off more, but you can skip through that one.
Oh, this
See,
one.
there it is again.
Is this an Arabic one, or is this a...
I think that one is an Arabic. I actually have a really hard time finding photos of Hellenistic astrolabes.
I was going to say this...
usually find an Arabic one, or you will find a medieval spherical astrolabe, which is actually like the love child of an astrolabe and an armillary sphere, which we talked about earlier.
Like a miniature...
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it would be able to take that along.
Yeah, this looks Arabic. That's very, very cool. I just love that also that you kind of hang it like that. Like, so that it kind of holds. I love that.
Yeah.
That it's not just... That's very cool.
I can't see, because it's so small on the screen, so I'm just trying to... It's so neat. I love it so much.
All right. Oh, this is I've been waiting for this. I want to hear all about this.
So this is the Antikythera. It was a hand-operated mechanism that was used to display astronomical information and was the standard size of a shoebox.
Oh, shoebox. Okay.
Yeah, it's often referred to as the first computer.
And heavily featured in the Indiana Jones movie, the new Indiana Jones movie, which is why I'm so excited.
An artifact of this device was discovered in 1901 from a wreck of a trading ship that sank in the first half of the 1st century BCE. And what I think, so personally what I love about this story is this is before you get like archaeologists. Yeah. I think 1901 is when we're still like maybe antiquitarian might have been a name used.
Whenever
I'm not sure
it comes to Egyptology, I always put Flinders Petrie at the head of the kind of stepping stone of real archaeology, and Howard Carter was one of his students, so he was working in the late 1800s, 1890s into the early, I don't know, I can't remember when he died, but at least when it comes to Egyptology, there seems to be one step forward to trying to make it a little bit more systematic. But I don't know in relationship to like the historiography of other archaeology, if like in certain other areas. But I'm sure a shipwreck, because of I'm sure diving techniques at that time, I'm sure they did not have good archaeology until the scuba was invented. I'm sure.
I don't know much about how they discovered it. Um, if you so I was searching through trying to search through archives and I couldn't find that much, and then anything that I could find that went into detail didn't seem reputable. So I just have kind of had to learn to let that lie for now, but it's something that I want to find the answer to.
Yeah.
But
do you know
we
who
do know
found it or where it is now?
no. I mean, I think we do know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
We can look it up later.
But we do know that it contained 30 geared wheels, and it has the first known set of dials. So the front displayed a large dial with pointers for showing the position of the sun and the moon in the zodiac and lunar phases. And then the back dials displayed a calendar system. It would tell you when games such as like the ancient Olympics were coming up, when an eclipse was likely. It's also it's known as one of the greatest engineering feats in astronomical engineering. And it is an analog computer because, I mean, it does so many things. So you have like a bigger function on the front that is serving as just like a basis of astronomical information, and then in the back it gets so detailed into the daily life of Hellenistic people. And I think that's what is so intriguing about this instrument, because we're not just talking about days and seasons or months. I mean, we're talking about things that were important to them entertainment wise, so they could keep track of it, just like you write on a calendar.
That's great.
The big, goodness, I'm terrible at sports, but like the World Cup.
Yeah.
It's like writing the World Cup on the calendar so you don't
that's
forget.
Insane. It's just cool because I think sometimes when you think of ancient peoples, you don't think, even though they're all within like one country or one civilization, sometimes you don't really think that they are connected as much. Like somebody in Athens is not really, maybe they won't know. Maybe somebody in a smaller town might not know when the Olympics is, but like they literally had technology to help them in certain aspects to keep connected with their whole civilization.
And we do know that games, maybe not just like the Olympics themselves, but games that were within the Hellenistic culture were being played in Alexandria as well. And then when you think of the fact that like Ptolemy III is trying to talk to people in Athens, trying to get information, I mean, there was this ongoing communication between Athens and Alexandria.
Crazy.
So
absolutely crazy. 4Gs, I apologize. I'm not going to dress like a pharaoh. If one of my mods can redeem that. It is serious lecture time, so I'm not going to wear my pharaoh outfit. If somebody could help redeem, give him back those 1,000.
I have wanted someone to use that though for so long, and I've been afraid to.
Well, the thing is, it actually attaches to my headphones, and so I'm not wearing my headphones right now, so I would have to rearrange the whole audio situation. Yeah, I'll show you guys. I'll show you guys. How about that? I could put on the female headdress. We could do that. But here it is. It just like it has two little like loops that go on my headphones. But it does. I can't have it sitting here. So.
Sorry.
There's actually, I'm not even joking you. Like I made this on stream. And there's a gap where it's velcroed off. This is the crafting.
You made that?
Everyone in our thing asks, what is the crafting I do? I do weird things like this. But it separates because what I wanted to do was to make a uraeus out of the snake. I wanted to make that out of foam, but I never got to it, so it just sits here. I will put on my I'll put on my broad collar. For you, 4Gs.
There we go.
We'll do that.
Looks very lovely.
Thank you. It's a child size, so I had to adjust it with a piece of yarn. But there we go. Okay.
Ingenuity.
There you go. That is true. Poet's like, serious lectures wearing cat ears. Okay.
I'm sorry!
We can be serious here. Don't shame the guest. She's our guest. She's our friend.
Please tell me that you were around when I showed that it lit up.
Well,
So
yes.
okay.
They do light up.
They do. They light up. They're amazing.
I'll wear my headdress. How about that? So you guys are happy with me.
I'm talking about like
There we go. They're really bad.
astronomy and trigonometry. Like I think we're in for some cat ears.
That is true.
I don't want to sound like an AP math teacher.
We need something to make sure everyone's awake if they don't like math.
And it's the cat ears.
The cat ears.
Ooh. I'm gonna make you like it though. By the end of this, people are gonna be like, "Yo, have you heard of trigonometry?"
Yes.
It is the best thing ever. Let me tell you why. It's gonna be your go-to conversation at a party when you don't know anybody. You're gonna make so many friends. Don't ask how many I have.
Alexandria might start streaming, so I will share her page and you guys can give her a follow.
I am. I'm gonna do. So I'm starting with Minecraft because I found this mod that's supposed to be a Roman city, but it's Minecraft. It's not supposed to be accurate, but yeah. I'm gonna make it accurate.
Amazing.
And then I'm gonna try and go through Assassin's Creed, but I'm worried that I'm just going to cuss the entire time, so I've got to work on that first.
You can also put the not family friendly. I literally accidentally cursed because I curse all the time, and I don't put mine as non-family friendly because I keep forgetting. And then I cursed like 3 times on Thursday, and Mallory was like, "This is a family friendly."
This is a family friendly. I was there for that.
I died in the mines. I apologize. I did it by accident. All right, you want to move to the next slide?
Yes, please.
Here's a better look, quickly. But
oh no, it missed one. Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
I think I took it off. Okay.
All right.
So the minds behind these tools, as I've mentioned prior, were polymaths or Renaissance men, and women, if you will, and they compiled expertise in many different fields, and they're often interlaced to give us a solid mathematical foundation. So we're starting with Euclid, who lived from 410 to 485 CE. It's believed he taught during the reign of. Well, then that's not the right. I have the wrong date.
That's fine.
He taught during the reign of Ptolemy I. I must have copied and pasted another one, and is considered to be one of the most influential mathematicians in greco-roman history. It is because of him that we have this initial idea of geometry, algebra, and number theory. And these were preserved in his compilation of books called The Elements. The final book, Book 5, which deals on the issues of number theory foundation, was for geometric theory of numbers. And that was used all the way up to analytic theory in the 19th century CE. So, I mean, we keep having this thing where we're seeing things invented, we're seeing theories being brought forth, and they're being used all the way until the 1800s.
Crazy.
Thank you for that. Yes, 270 BC sounds a lot more on key to whatever it was that I really think I probably started writing something about someone else and then
reasoning till the 19th century. I think that was.
Oh no, I had the wrong dates for when he lived, and I think that was. I think what I ended up doing was I had originally written 10 different mathematicians I wanted to talk about, and then
we're like, we gotta cut this down.
It's like we need to cut it down, and I think I missed a part where I was like exiting.
Perfect. Just
hitting the back button a ton, so I apologize for that. I could go on about this forever. I'm not sure it's healthy.
Don't worry. I think most things that historians are obsessed with are maybe a little bit not healthy.
Yeah, that's true. But his compilation of books, The Elements, the really, really cool thing about this, if you remember nothing else about any of the contents of these books, it is the second most translated work, second only to the Christian Bible.
That's insane.
Isn't that amazing?
I never would have guessed a math book. Like, I feel like it would have eventually come to me, but I don't think I ever would. I especially would not have guessed a book this old. That's for sure.
Well, and it highly comes from the fact that his geometric theory of numbers is still the premise of how we get our number theory all the way up to the 1800s.
Crazy.
So the next mathematician.
All right.
Is an engineer named Heron, and he is also responsible for preserving many ancient mathematical concepts in his writings, but his actually expanded beyond the Hellenistic world. We get theories from Babylon
Oh.
in his writings as well. Not much is actually known about his life, unfortunately, but we do know his major contributions date to somewhere around like 62 CE, which slightly off topic, but I think it's really interesting when you think about the Eastern and Roman empires, which Diocletian he splits the Roman Empire into two. So even prior to this, we still kind of refer to it Western and Eastern. So 60 CE, we're seeing Boudica.
Boudica.
Which I don't.
my favorite girl.
Boudica's out there burning down Roman cities in modern day Britain. At the same time that he is just, sitting here chilling, making all these mathematical discoveries. Absolutely. And so it just, chilling. I think the dichotomy is very interesting.
Totally.
But Heron invented the first recorded steam turbine.
Whoa.
Which it's amazing. It was a hollow sphere.
Real early. Never would have expected that.
It's a hollow sphere mounted so that it could turn on a pair of hollow tubes that provided steam to the sphere from a cauldron. And the steam escaped through the sphere from one or more bent tubes. So if you actually go to the next slide, I found someone who recreated this. And we can actually watch it work.
Yeah. Let's watch it.
You can probably stop it after 30 seconds, though, because I think it just keeps going.
I love experimental archaeologists. I don't know if that's what he classifies himself as, but this is 100% this. Oh, it's shooting steam.
Mm-hmm.
That is so clever. D-Day Schmay, you made one of these in college? I'm very jealous.
Do you have documentation? I want to see.
I want to see. Out of a tin can? Wow. I'm very impressed.
Oh, and some pipes? Oh, I'm going to try that.
Yes, we love experimental archaeology. That thing is going.
What does it blow up?
There's the gnomes on the... That's going really fast.
That is going very, very fast.
I'm so surprised. And you said by a cauldron?
Mm-hmm. It would have been...
Which is, I'm sure is literally the same thing of like the cauldron of like a steam train is like you have to put in the coal to like you just put that on wheels and you're good.
Exactly.
I just realized that gnome is Grumpy from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs over here. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah, so these inventions start popping up in Alexandria, but they're not used for anything practical at this point. They're actually considered to be toys. But I mean, a more accurate description would be proof of concept. The effort and success of these small inventions arguably boost us forward when we start implementing things like steam power. The foundation's already been laid, so that allows us to build upon it at a much quicker rate when we're ready as a civilization to start using it.
Quickly going back. I just gotta fix something. Alright. Okay, there we go. Boop. Just so everyone can get the biggest picture of it. But that is hysterical that it was used like as a toy. That like...
Yeah. Like not a toy for children.
Yeah,
but,
not a toy for children,
like,
but like not... They weren't getting it to its full potential.
Exactly. It was more of a, I have this idea, I want to see if it works. And when, I feel like you might be able to attest to this too, Melissa, is like when you get a bunch of us in a room together and we just start spouting off ideas and someone goes, hey, you should try that.
Yeah, you should
If you have a bunch of other people in your field being like, I want to see it, you should do it.
Yeah.
Usually peer pressure takes over and you do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that
But then you
it's
don't
a
usually
skill
have
as old as time.
a final plan for it. Like in this case, it's like, just do it, and then you're like, yeah, I'll try it. But then you're just trying it to try it almost. You don't really think. Sometimes you don't do it. You don't get it to like the full potential of like what it could possibly be.
Exactly. You just want to see if you can.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important. I think that's something that we lose a lot in modern intellectualism is like one, we're afraid to fail.
Yep. Oh
Like
yeah.
I will probably go back and I will realize that maybe like wrote down a date wrong. We're afraid to fail and admit it. We're afraid to do anything that isn't going to boost us in our career or have like a long-term outcome.
Yep.
And what we see with intellectuals in antiquity was the opposite.
Just try it, man.
Try it and fail and learn something from it.
And they didn't have
I think
much
that
else to do.
That's true.
Sometimes you think about it and you're like, wow, those ancient people, they probably had like very little stressors of their life in kind of comparison.
I mean, other than like,
death.
No modern medicine.
Yeah, it's like weird. It's like their like fears were probably much larger and more like, I don't know, like more overhanging all the time, but and ours are much smaller, but we have so many of them. So it's like, which one are you going to take? Are you going to take the big one that might happen, or the ones that are like a little bit more likely, but they're just
there's a lot more at stake. I mean, we're not being brought over into a great place of many intellectuals and being like, sponsored by some kind of, noble.
I mean,
so there's definitely
it's MelissainDeNile. We're in denial in more ways than one. Like, this, the whole reason that for my name is that imposter syndrome is real, and sometimes it is purposely put on there by your professors, and you're scarred for life and never want to go back to grad school again.
Oh no!
They all know my troubles with grad
That's
school.
That's terrible.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a lovely professor? I think we talked about this, but I'm like, I could have never said my professor's first name. I never could have called them that. It was just not the...
I'm sorry. I actually am really lucky to have some really great advisors and professors.
Melissa. Just ... Hello, Shay. Welcome. We have our lovely Alexandria here for a lecture. And Ikronika, I did just increase my volume, so hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better.
So the ancient Greeks were the original steampunk.
Steampunk. I do love that. That is because that right there is very steampunk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Although I would say it was probably, I mean, they are, I don't know if I would say ancient Greeks.
Yeah.
Because, well, I guess you could, because they're still, because the Eastern Roman Empire still is maintaining Greek as their main form of communication, and they keep the Hellenistic culture despite being Roman. So
yeah,
disregard. I think that would be great for a fanfic.
I do love the idea of that that space hex is the let's just try it and see what happens.
Maybe not. I take it back. Maybe not everyone should.
Everyone should. The sad part is that technically is science. Science is very much a test it out and see what happens. But most of the time, the testing portions are not as publicized. Like
we try and hide them.
Yeah, we try to hide this. Like,
well,
if something bad goes on.
Didn't they say it was a success? They were
yes,
like,
they did. I believe they did say the blowing up was a success, which you can gauge success in a variety of ways. It's like, I'm sure that they're doing it because nobody died, it was unmanned, so it was a success in that end, so that we didn't kill anybody. So
sorry, attention. I love that this was like, let's talk about.
But it is very true.
Mathematics.
Sakimon is like testing.
No.
Is usually
I love this.
Done behind doors. You don't see it. It's the whole part of the. Now I feel bad. What is the stupid steps you're supposed to do in science? Like.
I'm sorry. What?
The steps you're supposed to do in science. You have a hypothesis. What's that order called? Can't remember. There's a specific word.
Are you literally asking me? I don't remember.
Scientific method. Thank you, Harasakumon. The
scientific. Oh, the name of it. I thought you were asking the steps.
No, I don't remember the steps. I was like,
there's steps?
The scientific method is what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
It's really weird.
I could have answered that if I understood. Sorry.
My bad.
No. I'm kicking myself for not understanding like a very basic question, and then I was like, how can I take this? Well, this is my whole thing is that I don't remember things. My memory for words is so bad that my chat just helps me on. That's so nice.
But yeah, it is like archaeology is a social science, but we don't really follow the scientific method like the rest of most science does. We do have certain aspects of like Harasakumon has observation, hypothesis, testing. We do have some aspects in that, but most of the time, like the hypothesis portion is very is kind of taken out of it, and the testing portion is you do a post hole. If you find something, maybe we'll dig here. If you don't find something, we still might dig here. And so it's not as nicely followed. There are certain sections of archaeology that do, I'm sure, do full scientific method, like when it comes to DNA and dating, carbon dating, and things like that. Like I'm sure they go through the proper channels, but that's why archaeology is technically a social science. We don't really follow the rules that way.
That's
all right.
So cool. I saw someone say observation, hypothesis, testing, and all I can think about is dinosaur train, which is very obvious. Like hypothesis, it means an idea you can test.
I love that.
All right, so back on track.
Back on track.
So Claudius Ptolemy was not the Egyptian ruler, and we've mentioned him briefly a while back, but he was a mathematician, astronomer, and geographer. And it is his system of the universe, which was Earth-centric, the Ptolemy system, that is used up till the 16th century CE. He was the first astronomer that began to look at astronomy purely in mathematical terms. And his contributions to trigonometry, we're finally there, I finally get to talk about trigonometry, are especially important. Ptolemy's tables of links of chords in a circle is the earliest surviving table of trigonometric function. So trigonometry is essential to navigation. Without it, you have no compass. You have none of that right ascension and declination that we talked about. There's no astrolabe or further sea navigation tools. We can't have any of that if we do not have a basic understanding and function of trigonometry. So it's not just angles and degrees. I mean, we have these incredible real world. Am I saying it wrong?
No, I think that was a sad face for we don't like trigonometry.
No, seriously, it's so cool though, because if you think about it,
I think he's sleeping.
If you think about it in terms of what we can use it for, I am not great at this. Like I struggled with algebra. So like full disclosure, I am not a great mathematician, which is probably why I'm so obsessed with learning about it. Because it's like one of those like those who can't teach type thing.
Yeah. When
you think about the functions that trigonometry give us in terms of our need for exploration, and I'm not talking about imperialism or colonialization, I'm just pure exploring what is out there, both in terms of land and space. We rely on the basis of trigonometry to be able to do this.
May, we might be able to do that after. So keep that question for the end.
So we see further navigation tools in the 18th century that are using the basis of trigonometry. And so this is why I think it's so important. This is why I think it is so cool. Even if you don't go into it, if you're not taking an AP class on it, if you can understand why we need it, I think it really opens doors to having a better appreciation, especially when you're thinking about in terms of antiquity. And they're coming up with these things because they're not afraid to try. And so I just think I think it is a beautiful form of math. But
Ikrenika says, I wish more teachers would show real application. I was literally just about to say this. Like, if I had learned the history of math when I was taking math, like, I'm pretty good at math. It just takes me a little bit longer. Oh, thank you, Ramon Beards. I will change that. But the whole, if I had learned the history of this, I think I might have appreciated it more, or the history and then the real life application. Like, I think math sometimes gets, ironically, a little too analytical. It just is the
Mm-hmm.
you just keep doing the problems over and over again. But very rarely did I ever learn about how old math was, about how math has changed, about who even invented, but discovered it, and like, and for somebody who loves history, I think that would have given me a little bit of greater appreciation of why I needed to
Oh
do
yeah,
it.
absolutely. And I think if you think of mathematics less of an analytical um, science and more in terms of a language.
Mm.
And I think that really opens doors for seeing how it's applicable as well, because mathematics is our language of understanding. It is through math that we are able to understand why things work and where they are, and that helps us with our placement of who we are and where we are in the world, where we want to go. So I like to think of math more as a language of how and why, which maybe that's like being a
Hey,
romanticizing it.
no one else is romanticizing math. We might as well do it.
Uh,
Next slide.
well, almost. So
Almost. A little bit more about Ptolemy.
So Ptolemy, apart from all of that, his success in geography is probably what he is most well known for. His guide to geography provided all the information and techniques required to draw maps, and he's the first one to implement the measurements of latitude and longitude, which made it possible to replicate his maps precisely. So the understanding of latitude and longitude was invaluable for trade, navigation, tactics, and exploration.
Wow. Super cool. Luckily, he has a first name because of the amount of Ptolemies that are in the Ptolemaic period.
I know, right?
It's like every king. There's literally a 5 names that are used in all of the royalty of that period. That's it.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right.
So now we come to the story of Hypatia, who is a central player in the final fall of the Serapeum and Alexandria as being the intellectual capital of the world. I'm going to first look at her as an intellectual because I think the account of her demise often overshadows her accomplishments while she was living. And we are going to get into the story of how Hypatia and the intellectual capital came to an end. So we'll be dealing with topics of like religious extremism. While throughout history we can see extreme religious beliefs and anti-intellectualism, they often go hand in hand. I don't want to condone the information that I'm giving as a basis to perpetuate any hate towards anyone who may hold a certain views of the cosmos or the afterlife or deities. So I just want to put that out there first, is that it's going to get heavy.
Very good.
But I don't want to condone any hate to anyone who does have religious beliefs. Alexandria, from the time of Constantine, operates as a cosmopolitan city where Christianity, Judaism, and paganism are intermingling. So they're living in separate quarters, but they learned and lived together. We have accounts that Hypatia taught men who represented all of these religions. And we mentioned this prior, that there is a movie with Rachel Weisz as Hypatia and Agora, and I really, really wanted to like this movie because she's my favorite actress and it's my favorite historical figure, and I think she does a beautiful job. But it is a very, very heavy movie, so you're not going to go in and watch it and be like, oh, this is so pretty. So disclaimer there. And it doesn't actually focus on her life, more about all the things that were playing behind the scenes leading up to her death. But Hypatia was a Neoplatonic, which is a philosophy that believes that human perfection and happiness were obtainable on earth apart from the afterlife. So it heavily focused on a transcendent monotheistic divine entity known as the One.
Ooh.
And then by emanating the consciousness of the good of all in daily living and contemplating the reasoning for the universe and our part in it, they believed that they could achieve all-encompassing peace, contentment, and happiness. This is a very generalized overview.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look that up.
But this philosophy is important because she was the head scholar over the school of Neoplatonism, and then its philosophy allows for more of an egalitarian acceptance, which is probably why we see her working as a scholar and accepted and respected amongst her male peers, even though we're living in a Roman-occupied Egypt, which is very, very... So I'm sorry, I saw a question. So the One kind of refers to this all-encompassing deity. And then you see different writings of trying to figure out what that means. It was very much open to interpretation. But she was a philosopher, scholar, astronomer, and mathematician. She is considered the leading mathematician and astronomer of her time, and I think that that is really important to note. She's often incorrectly attributed to the invention of the astrolabe. We believe it was invented prior. But while she did not invent it, she is thought to have been the leading expert in the assembly of it at the time. So she was educating in philosophy and what we would consider early scientific thought, using theories like the Ptolemaic system and its conjunction with, again, early trigonometry. Hypatia makes contributions too by reworking early algebraic equations with the goal of simplifying them in order to create a more accessible formula. So Hypatia actually really lays out that foundation of which we get our modern algebraic formula from. So before that, it was even more complicated. So thank you.
Thank you, Hypatia.
She is written to have been accepted as an equal amongst her male scholars and wore the same academic robes and taught at the same level.
You go, girl.
I know, right? Apart from the cultural pulse being highly patriarchal, we're also seeing the stage of bubbling turmoil in a city where Judaism and paganism is starting to clash with the newly growing political power of Christianity. Not necessarily Christian citizens, but within the growing power structure and then the weaponizing of extremists within the religion. So this was a power structure that was propelled by Emperor Constantine less than 100 years prior. And in multiple historical accounts, it said that Hypatia was admired in terms of seeking advice and intellect by the bishop's rival. So this is also, this is also during a time where the idea of scientific thought is, which it wasn't, the word scientific thought is a fairly modern way of describing it, but it was being pushed as a direct threat to the church's ideals. So her mind, the circle that she was in, her status, that ultimately ends up sealing her fate. In the 5th century, a Byzantine historian, Socrates Scholasticus, writes that her demise was the source of political intrigue. And do you mind if I actually read you and it's like what he says? Yeah. So he writes that, yet even she fell victim to the political jealousy which was at the time prevailed. For as she had frequent interviews with Orestes, which is the rival, it was calamitously reported among the Christian populace that it was she who prevented him from being reconciled to the bishop. Some of them therefore hurried away by a fierce and bigoted zeal, whose ringleader was a reader named Peter, waylaid her returning home, and dragging her from her carriage, they took her to the church. And in this church, it is accounted that they stoned her with tiles. We also get a chronicle of John, who was a Coptic bishop, and he attempts to paint a way more fantastical religious tone, claiming that she used magic and I quote, satanic willies to manipulate.
Satanic what?
Or wiles or willies.
Oh, what?
Wiles.
No, willies. No, that's fine. But I was like, anything satanic could be anything.
No, sorry. My notes are like this big, so I can see the screen because I only have one monitor. We're giving it our best shot.
Best shot, man. It's the first lecture. Man. You're fine.
But this actually marks a rapid beginning of the end of intellectual materials and Alexandria's place amongst scientific expertise.
Really?
Her demise is possibly the last in the attacks against paganism and intellectualism in Alexandria. And that starts with the destruction of the Serapeum in 391 CE, which was under the instruction of desecration of all pagan temples. The Great Library of Alexandria had already fallen. So at that point, anything that was left over was taken over into the Serapeum, and then that's lost of the desecrating of all pagan temples. So anything now, all writing material had already been lost in that way from the Great Library. And then this truly marks the end of the acceptance of intellectual thought, especially in regards to things like astronomy within Alexandria.
Now, was she a pagan? Do we think that she was a pagan?
So pagan would refer to anyone who wasn't a Christian or part of the Jewish community. So you could have been, Neoplatonic, speaking, her philosophy is considered to be a very, considered to be a basis of theistic agnosticism.
Gotcha. I was thinking when I saw that, I was like, I know that's her philosophy, but I was like, is that kind of her religion? But that makes sense.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily considered to be a religion, but they didn't deny that there was a deity, but they didn't also believe that this deity created the world.
Yeah,
it was more of an idea and an all-encompassing energy.
Yeah.
So she, in terms of what we may think of as pagan, I'm not sure that I would place her in there, but in terms of what they would have thought would be pagan, which is anyone who isn't Christian or within the Jewish community.
And I'm sure, I think, what time period did she live in? Because I don't...
She was in the late 4th, early 5th century CE.
Yeah, so by that point, I mean, Egyptian religion was totally gone, but I'm sure that fell into pagan, at least in that last kind of portion of Greek, Roman, Egypt and stuff. And I'm sure there was probably still some people worshiping Roman religion, and that would fall into pagan as well.
Yeah, I think you have some that some cults still around that time, but it's very
really small,
kind of watered down.
Yeah,
for all intents and purposes. And I'm not even sure, and this is me getting into like speculation just because of how much I care about this story, but I'm not even sure that paganism is the actual main reason as to why. I think it was a good excuse. So you have to think of the fact that she is a woman, a scholar, and a pagan. So she's like the a triple threat.
Trifecta, the absolute enemy.
Yeah, one of those could have possibly easily slipped through the cracks, but holding all three and then having such high regard for important people that were standing in your way, you couldn't weaponize a group of people by being like, I just need this girl gone.
Yeah,
you've got to create a story that's going to speak to something that they fully believe in. So I think that's why you see them heavily hitting on the fact that she was a pagan.
Yeah,
rather than her being a female scholar.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Pikachu, for the follow as well. But yeah, that makes sense. it's something I think we see in repeating in history all the time, especially with female or women who are persecuted and then often sacrificed. I think it is a unfortunately very common trope where they will try to find something other than their gender to pin them on something, and then you're like, is it really about that? Is it really? But when you're multiple of those, you just no matter what, you will always be high on their hit list.
Exactly. And I really wish that we had some of her own writings. We don't. If you actually look up her on Google, you're going to actually find a lot of quotes attributed to her, but they're not actually her.
Not actually her.
They're from a fictional novel from the 19th century that mentions her as a character. And so it's a very, like, I can see where people would get very confused, but we do not have any direct quotes. They're great quotes.
They're great.
Though.
They're usually
they're
great.
Fantastically. They're wonderful for like women empowerment and like all this stuff. You actually will see it like sold on Etsy a bunch, but they're not her words. All we have on her that is contemporary are letters from a pupil of hers. And he was a Christian, and he was thought to be much older than her. He refers to her with such respect. It's so beautiful reading through those letters, because every time he addresses her, it's with such admiration and respect.
That's lovely.
And then asks her so many questions, because he knows that if she, like, I assume that he knows if she doesn't know the answer, she's going to find it out.
Yeah.
So, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see this relationship, which is not romantic. We do not believe it is romantic in any way. Just play out through those letters. We don't see her replies. We only have his. So,
believe me, there's a whole story you might have heard of. There's like an Egyptian story. It's called an Egyptian Cinderella story. It's called I think it's Girl with the Red Slipper. And it's not Egyptian. It is a 19th century fabrication that was published in a book. And I believed it. I'm not even joking. It's in one of my like literature books for like ancient Egypt, and there is no actual contemporary Egyptian story.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if you look up lists of, because there is a lot of Cinderella type stories that do crop up in lots of different time periods, and every single one every list will always have this story. And I wanted to do a TikTok about it, and I looked it up, and I was like, what? This isn't actually Egyptian? Because I wanted to find the real text.
Interesting.
No, completely made up.
I didn't realize that the Cinderella story spanned far back at all.
I'd have to look deeper in it, but I know that there is a Chinese that is very similar, and it's something about the slipper, but I don't know. I don't know what because now that I found out this Egyptian one's fake, I'm very cautious to believe.
Yeah, no kidding.
That a Chinese one, because I'm pretty sure at least the one we mostly know is I was about to say Rodgers and Hammerstein, which is incorrect. That is the musical. Is everybody knows the big guys. The big guns.
Did the Brothers Grimm write Cinderella? I didn't think they did Cinderella.
I can't remember. There's Brothers Grimm and then Hans Christian Andersen and a lot.
I think it was Hans Christian Andersen.
There's a lot of crossover, and I never can remember which one it is. So
I feel like it's a similar thing with Sleeping. So full disclosure, I'm a Disney adult.
We're Disney adults here. Don't worry. You're in a safe place.
But there's a similar. And then prior to this whole life, I was in a ballet school, so we had to study history of like fairy tales of like Sleeping Beauty, because Tchaikovsky has a Sleeping Beauty ballet. Anyways, I thought I was looking it up. Why am I looking it up? I'm so okay.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yes, it is. It says it's Hans Christian Andersen, at least according to Google. So
yeah,
okay.
There's a lot of crossover between both of them. And then the weird Ever After movie, they imply that Cinderella is Brothers Grimm, because the way that, if you've ever seen that movie, at the beginning of the movie, at the beginning of the movie, the Brothers Grimm go and meet the supposed real Cinderella, who is like the main character, but she's older. But I need to
Leonardo da Vinci is like,
and Leonardo da Vinci is just also hanging out in France.
playing with his
What are
F
those?
around and find out scientific toys.
Yes, the boat shoes. The boat shoes
Yeah.
that totally, definitely work, and don't let you sink to the bottom of the lake.
But it is cool to point out the fact that he's basically doing the same thing that we see some of these ancient mathematicians do, where he would
he was
sketch things out and then build
absolutely
models.
he was absolutely a let's just figure it out on our own and just play around. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lot of people from that time period were, I think.
Well, as the Byzantine Empire falls in Alexandria, which is due to the Arab conquest in the 17th century, we start to see a slow return of astronomy to Alexandria that then expands through the medieval period. So if you want to hit the next slide, we'll just fast forward to today. Oh, I forgot about that. That was the whole, like, she gets the whole tile thing and
she gets
down with all the intellectualism.
Intellectualism.
It's a great
burning.
slide. I'm kind of sad. I had like animation of the fire moving.
I know. It's okay.
Dang. There we go. So the picture in the background is actually the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, and that is our modern Great Library of Alexandria. It has a main library and 6 specialized libraries, including a special large media database. And this holds news and film and art from all over the world. So Alexandria.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
Oh, I saw it. That's amazing.
So good.
Alexandria is this beautiful story of knowledge prevailing and adapting to its long and diverse history. So Alexandria now, instead of one foot in the Hellenistic world and one foot in the Egyptian, we see a world where a city is aiming to preserve its history while acknowledging its roots, and then pressing forward to the future of intelligence. And I think that is, you couldn't ask for a better story, movie ending than that. No. After everything that the story of intellectualism in Alexandria went through, through hundreds of years, and always kept rising back up. We're now placed here where we see the city acknowledging and preserving and then still looking for it. And I'm very passionate about it. I think that it's incredibly beautiful. I love seeing how much they want to preserve the now as well with like that database. It's enormous, and the backup systems are enormous.
Yeah, and what you can't see is on here is all the tons and tons of different languages. It's not just ancient Egyptian. This looks like cuneiform right here, and I see some sort of Asian characters, and that's just very cool that they're kind of even expanding that. And
so UNESCO actually did a competition for designing
they did
the library, and the point was to incorporate the beauty of the world's thoughts. I think was like the main objective, and this is what they ended up going with, and I think it's just gorgeous.
It's so cool. Absolutely.
But that is all I have.
Well, thank you so much, Alexandria. Does anybody have any questions? Because I mean, we're all at the end. But what
I can actually see you in your costume now.
Yes.
You look gorgeous.
Ooh, Freya, very good question. Could you recommend any books to learn about any of the subjects discussed tonight, or any sort of sources?
Yes.
Throw them out here. Let's see them.
So, oh no, it all fell. I need bookends. I was so proud of that too. I had like all of your books that you use. All of my books in case anyone asked. And I was like, it's going to be all pretty in the background. And I am being so humble tonight. Anyways, so this book is called The Roman Empire Rise and Fall. It's by Stephen P. Kershaw. And I'm going to see if you can
type it
see
in.
It here.
Roman
so full disclosure, I have taken so many of his classes.
Oh.
So it is a little biased, but this book is amazing because it does give such a good overview when we're talking about not just the culture of Rome in the East, but it does go over that rise of anti-intellectualism that we talked about at the end. And it does it not only in a way that's easy to understand, but I think that it's really well done in refraining from showing any bias. Except for what the obvious atrocities.
Yeah.
You see,
the obvious ones. Yeah.
We know that persecution's bad, but like other than that, I think it does just a phenomenal job of making it accessible. So that's one that I recommend to everybody. And then I do not see it here. There's only like a few books about Hypatia, but I'm gonna get the author's name. I also have a TikTok about this too.
Oh yes, I should link your TikTok. I'm gonna pull that up.
So it's called Hypatia of Alexandria, by Maria, and then I wish I could pronounce that last name. I feel like I should be able to. Dzielska.
If you want to type it into the chat, you can.
Oh, I can. I forgot that I could actually.
I'm
that.
looking up the Roman Empire. I'm looking up that author that you said. Rise and Fall. Book. Did you say that's Barry Linton? Barry Linton, is that the first author?
Oh no, Steve. I can type it in.
Okay, yeah.
It's Stephen Kershaw.
Oh, Stephen Kershaw. And welcome, Pattern Juggler. We're at the very end of our lecture, but we are given questions. I'm gonna link Alexandria's TikTok if the TikTok page will load. But yeah. Shut up, TikTok.
Yay, excuse to buy books. I think the one, I don't know if you can get, I don't know if Scribd is an international service or if it's just a US app. I love Scribd.
Scribd, yeah.
And it's like Spotify for books and audiobooks. I think the book on Hypatia is actually on there. And then the Roman Empire one is on, like, am I allowed to say links on that? Is it the same thing as like TikTok where you're gonna get?
No, you can. Yeah, you can. I have permission that anyone can put links in the chat. So.
Oh, I wasn't saying like links, but like talk about, because you know how like you can't say certain. Okay. So
we're fine.
You can find it on like Amazon. It's not, and especially there's a lot of used copies, which I would highly recommend getting the used copies because you're gonna want to highlight so much.
There is Alexandria's TikTok if you want to see some of her videos that she makes. And then you can also follow her on Twitch, which if I do that, it'll pop up.
Yeah, my TikToks range from like historical to just pure spite, so.
Nothing wrong with that. We all need a little spite on TikTok. But that was great because honestly, I know I told you this, but for everyone else, I was going to do a post on Hypatia, because I think I just like looked up a list of like Egyptian women, and it was for like one of my Women Crush Wednesday posts that I was doing. But when I kind of looked into her, I was like, wow, that's like a lot of stuff. And then she's also in that time where she lives in Egypt, but very not Egyptian. And so I think I pulled back because I was like, I can't really give any expertise on what the culture was in Alexandria at that time, and so I ended up not posting about her, but I really would have loved to because it's a fantastic story.
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely.
Thrift books. Yeah, there's thrift books, and there's also what's that weird one called? It's like Abe books. Frequently, whenever I search really old, thrift books is good for more modern books, but if you're looking for old books, Abe books always pops up when I'm Googling books and stuff.
Yeah, I have an obsession with thrift books. I'm always getting that free book. I have to get like so many points.
I think
Yeah.
on
And then
thrift books, that was how I got, when I went to England, I really liked, they had just released a new cover set for Harry Potter, and I really liked it, and so I bought like the first two books, but I wanted the whole set because my set had been like destroyed by my brother when he read them, and so I
oh
think
no.
the only, yeah, he like broke one fully in half because he was reading it for so long,
Oh my goodness.
but I think the ones that I think I wanted the British ones, and the only way that I could get it was from the UK. I had to do like thrift books or some weird
Oh man.
website, which like I ended up getting them for like a good amount of money and like kind of cheap, but like it was very odd that I had to order it like straight from
Yeah,
the
no
UK. There was
kidding.
no way I could order it from a US website.
So, someone asks as if I feel my career was determined by my name. That
I
is,
mean,
the Inception jokes are not lost on me, and I think they're hilarious, and I get them all the time.
I love it.
So I was actually named after the library. My mom was a
You were.
librarian when she was pregnant with me. But I don't know. Maybe my therapist would tell you that it's like some deep-seated vanity. I don't want to know.
I love the idea of that. I love the idea that you were destined to be in
Maybe
this.
Dustin. I don't know. I didn't get into Alexandria, Egypt as a whole until I learned about Hypatia. So
Mm,
um, just like without like, let me tell you my bio and story of my life.
yeah,
Like those were not women that were presented to me growing up.
very true.
And so I did not realize that prior to more modern times that there were these strong intellectual women. And I had this amazing librarian that would literally sneak biographies into our like homeschool library pickup,
Wow.
and then I would eat them up.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I decided that that was something that I wanted to do. But I originally worked as a in social advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
and as a journalist. So I did not get into history until I was about 25, and then archaeology is a very new concept for me. I'm going into my third year, so I'll be graduating at the end of this coming year, which is exciting. I know, I'm so happy.
I'm excited.
um, but yeah, no, I don't know, maybe
I
I'm
think
gonna
you
have to
just
sit on
needed
that
to.
now.
I think it just needed to happen. Pattern juggler. Women Crush was when I originally started MelissainDeNile. I did blogs and Instagram, and I would do 3 posts a week. And so Women Crush Wednesdays were meant to be posts about either 3 things: either ancient Egyptian women, so talking about female mummies if we had their mummy, or ancient Egyptian women that we don't have their mummies but we know they existed. Um, Female goddesses, Egyptian goddesses, and then female Egyptologists. So those are the 3 subjects, and I would love to bring back that series because I did love all that stuff that I wrote about them. But yes, they were kind of my women crushes. It was trying to like elevate female stories in both ancient and modern constructs. So scrolling back down. I did want the British ones because I wanted the new designs. I liked the new designs better. They were very cute. I also went to, when I was in London, I went to a specific event where they released those designs and like met the artist and had a Harry Potter like night. I was part of, we'll just say this. I was part of a Harry Potter society, which is a British version of a club at a university. It was called a society. It was just a club. We would have frequent, which made sense. I don't know if you know this, Alexandria. I played Quidditch in college. Oh no, I can't hear you. Ah! Your mic still says it's working. Oh no. Maybe try turning it off and then turning it back on, or switching it. I still can't hear you. No.
Okay.
We were literally almost done. I did very much like Harry Potter, but I was
Can you hear
a
me now?
Oh, yes.
No?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because the only reason I know that you couldn't hear me was just like, did you play Quidditch? And you were like, I don't know if you know this.
I didn't
I
hear
was
you
like,
say
oh,
that.
my mic has got to be off.
I didn't hear you say that. Yes, I did play Quidditch. the funniest part about this is that I was not a childhood Harry Potter fan. I was not a fan of Harry Potter until I started high school. And that was purely because I was a crazy reader when I was in elementary school, but this is very pompous of me, but I thought I could find better books, I guess. Is like I would read on a constant basis. I would read during recess, I would read during lunch, was made fun of for doing that. But then people would come by me who never read, and they would show me a book, and they're like, you have to read this book, it's so good. This happened with both Harry Potter and then Twilight eventually. But I was like, I've read better books than that. Like, I know I have. And so hysterically, it's not that I went to a Catholic school that I didn't read Harry Potter. Everyone read Harry Potter that I knew. I was not in the crazy Catholic that are like, they're witches and stuff. But yeah, I didn't get into it until I was in high school, until half of the movies had already come out.
It's
a crazy story.
I didn't get into it until I was an adult.
Yeah.
So.
But yes, I did pick my colleges based off of if they had a Quidditch team.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was.
You're being serious.
It was one slot on the giant Excel spreadsheet that was all the colleges. It was not number one choice, but it was on there. And I went to World Cup twice. With my
Wait,
team.
there's a World Cup for.
Yeah, so now Quidditch is not called Quidditch anymore. It's actually called quad ball. Essentially because for two reasons. One, there was always the looming effect that J.K. Rowling could sue our asses off because we were using the word.
She would too.
She would, honestly. But there was always that looming thing over there. But the secondary reason is that Quidditch is the only co-ed full contact sport in the world. There's really no other sports that you always have co-ed and is full contact. And we also have a very large majority of LGBTQ people in our group. And the thing is, we already had rules about transgender athletes and where it fell, because you had to have a gender ratio, but it did not have to be either way. It just had to be some sort of ratio.
Okay.
And so the overwhelming fact was that she was not supportive of a good majority of the people who were. So it was only literally last year that they changed it to quad ball. But the first 2 years I did Quidditch, we called it World Cup, and it was always in the South. It was always in America. But essentially international teams, because there were international teams, usually could not attend. It was just really hard for them to get there. So by my junior year, they changed it to be nationals, and then World Cup was frequently somewhere in Europe. And that would allow international teams to kind of more freely go. But because they switched it to nationals, they had to shimmy the amount of people that were allowed to go. So my team was always at the very low end of people who would get into World Cup. But so the next 2 years, essentially, we were bad enough that we would go to the Consolation Cup because we wouldn't make it into nationals.
This is fascinating.
Oh, believe me. And you know what's even more fascinating is that I wrote an anthropology paper on gender in Quidditch.
Are you serious? Do you still have it?
I do still have it.
Can I read it?
Yes, you most certainly may. It was a crazy thing that I had to do. I hated anthropology. I didn't like talking to real people. This is the whole reason I'm an archaeologist, is that I don't like talking to real people. I like talking to the dead and stuff like that. So in this anthropology class, it was a gender class, and we had to do a anthropological study, and I was really uncomfortable with doing it because she wasn't giving us good examples of she was like, oh, go to the nail salon, go to the bar. Like, she was giving us really bad examples of where to do this. And I thought, well, Quidditch is the only co-ed sport, and myself, as a larger person that would frequently have to use my body for force, but I had already seen on multiple instances that when men tackled women, they would kind of freak out if the girl got hurt.
Sorry.
Because it happened.
That was quite the bar.
One of my very, very good friends hit a girl very hard, and she had to be taken out by an ambulance, and he was not the same. He wouldn't touch anybody afterwards.
Oh no.
And so it was something that I was like, always observing, and then always observing that like a guy on my team would not throw me the quaffle, like just wouldn't do it. He just like
Ew.
like and so pretty much there was a Facebook group with a ton of people who played Quidditch, and I was like, let's just put a survey out there, and I think it maybe had like I feel like it had like maybe like 3,000 people in it or so, and I got about like almost 400, maybe 500 responses, and I had to go through all of them, like every single one, to be able to put it into my study. And yeah, it was crazy. I got a lot of things, a lot of interesting things there. But yes, anyone can read it if they'd like. I will definitely share it because it was very
I do.
interesting, and I got a lot of good feedback on that.
That's so cool.
But yeah, I don't know how we started talking about Harry Potter, but
I mean, I have like nothing else to say, so I'm just here chatting until you tell me to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10:30, but thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions? I think we're gonna go try to see if we can raid somebody, but let's see who we can find. But you are more than welcome to come back and do another lecture about anything you want. If you have a more specific,
it would be nice to like, now that I'm used to like how it goes.
Yeah,
I think a more specific topic would be cool, because I think we talked about this too, where like a lot of people that you talk to don't like to specialize in a very, very, very tight niche. I do. I think which was very, very clear tonight. But yeah, no, I would love to come back and talk more niche worthy.
Yeah. Okay, Dita.
On the history of cat ears. You know what?
We'll figure this out. Light them up for the end.
I like my cat ears. Thank you. I think they're beautiful.
They are beautiful.
They're not lighting up now. Hold on.
They'll do it. Don't worry. I have confidence.
It's because I didn't press the button. Hold on. Pretend like that was really good timing and a really good comeback.
Okay, so Dita Schmay wanted us to look at the map of Ptolemy from 150 and then look at the T and O map from 636. So I pulled up this. So let me share that with her so that she can see it.
I can also just pull it up too.
Yeah, so here is the oldest surviving Ptolemaic world map redrawn according to his first projection by monks at Constantinople under maximum. Sorry, all I can see is Planudes, but that's definitely not how you pronounce it. Around 1300, but apparently a Byzantine Greek world map according to Ptolemy I's conic projection from the Codex Vaticanus Urbanus Gratius 82, Constantinople circa 1300, on parchment, probably assembled by Maximus Planudes, later in possession of Palestrozzi, then with Federico de Montefeltro, Duke I can't say anything, Duke of Urbino. And I want to zoom in on this.
So it's not loading for me. I just see a circle of death.
Okay. Let me see if I can hopefully refresh it. I'm going to turn it off and then turn it back on again. Let's see what we got. Can you see it now?
No.
All right, well.
I'll take your word for it, though. You're giving a great description.
I'm putting the link to the image in the chat so you can see the image. And I'm zooming in on it. Oh wow, that's a very cool image. But yeah, it's essentially, it's pretty cool. It's got, Europe looks pretty good with the exception of Italy being on a very steeper slant than what it actually is. Africa is missing that whole circular section on the left of it. But Egypt looks great, actually. They do have some very good curves of the Nile correct. Or very close, at the least.
That is so cool.
And they got Crete. And Turkey looks really good too. And the Black Sea, Caspian Sea looks, is that the Caspian Sea? No, I think the top portion of the Black Sea looks too big. And they've completely made a straight line from Germany, from the Denmark over. But then it's just like crazy that you go right up to Britain and then there's just a line. Like there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No one's gone that far. But they also
But it's not, sorry.
The Indian Ocean's also insane. But I think they do have, I think those are supposed to be like the Euphrates. What's the other one? Tigris and Euphrates. They do have a lot of rivers looking. I think they're just a little too far over. They had this map in what looks like 150 AD. Yeah.
That would be.
And then
They totally erased the Scandinavian countries.
And then
I mean, we are talking about a Ptolemaic map, so it's safe to assume that you are going to get some civilization bias as well.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
In the rendering.
Oh, T&O map. Oh. I'm sorry. Then DDH may wanted us to look at the T&O map, which is this one. Which is...
Oh, did you just... What's... I don't see it. Where's the link? Why are you laughing?
I put it in the chat. I just put it in the chat. The link to the...
I'm having major FOMO. Okay, hold on. What in the world is that?
Asia!
Wait, what am I looking at? What is that?
Let me read it. The T&O map from a 12th century copy of Etymology. That's it. The medieval T&O maps is a qualitative and conceptual type of medieval cartography represented only on the top half of the spherical Earth. It was presumably tactically considered a conventional projection of the inhabited portion of the world known in Roman and medieval times. The T, oh, I see. It's called a T&O map because there's a T and an O.
And an O, T and I thought it was some kind
The T is at the bottom and then there's an O.
There, O.
So the T is the Mediterranean dividing the three continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa, and the O is the surrounding ocean. Interesting. And Jerusalem was generally represented by the center of the map. That seems a little biased.
I'm glad we briefly mentioned map bias.
Yeah. Map bias. Amazing. Yeah, Asia was typically the size of the other two continents combined. Because the sun rose in the east, the paradise, Garden of Eden, was generally depicted as being Asia, and Asia was situated on the top portion of the map. Yeah, this has nothing to do with mapping.
This is
what happens when you lose all of this knowledge, and then they have to build everything up based on religion.
But it was intentional though. I mean, the reason that you lose all this information is because that's what they wanted. I mean, it wasn't like an oh no thing for the majority of the leadership. This is exactly the kind of stuff they wanted to be able to pass out, and people be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely
because
insane.
you see map bias still.
Yeah.
If you see like a lot of world maps that are sold in the United States, Africa is much smaller in comparison to North America, which I'll just take that as you will. But.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't watch what's it called? I don't watch the the West Wing. I don't watch the West Wing, but I've seen a lot of clips because my mom really likes the West Wing. And there's a scene where these scientists come and they try to tell like the president's people that the map is wrong and that like we're using the Mercator projection and that it actually elevates certain continents and makes them look 10 times bigger than they actually are. And it's kind of this whole thing that that they're like, what do you mean the map is wrong? Like, it's this hysterical conversation where essentially they're being totally, oh, you have to watch it. I might link it later, because it's like the two people who are obviously just like, they're just politicians. They don't really care about like these kind of little nitpicky things, but they're like, what do you mean the map is wrong? And he goes, yeah, it's like, and then they show them the version where everything is, they show them this flat version where it shows everything is even, but when you look at it, everything is pushed up. So like the Americas and Europe are really squished together, but like South America and Africa are really long. And they're like, what is that? Like, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And they're like, no, based on latitude and longitude, this is the most even way to portray it. But it, of course, to us looks so wrong.
Right. Well, like, I understand there's like the Mercator projection is based off a cylinder idea, but like you will also find, and maybe this is just showing my upbringing. There are maps in the U.S. that aren't accurate or displayed on any type of latitude and longitude. I should have been more specific in that when I was going off, but no, I do understand, like also, on a general map.
The other thing I've noticed is in America, they typically show the maps where Asia's cut in half, but where like America's on one side, and like that's in my mind when I think of the globe, I usually think of America being on one side, and usually I don't think Asia's cut off, but I'm always that way. But a lot of other countries have their continent centered and just have America on the side, when we literally will split it in half sometimes, and it just doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
And the thing is, I've been wanting a really good globe, like a fancy globe to just have on my desk. And I go, and granted, I'm not looking fancy places. I'm looking like Home Goods. But if you look, every single one is so wrong. Nobody makes globes correctly anymore. They're always, because they have to lay it, obviously, these big sections that are thin on the edges and wide in the middle and stuff. And like, it just doesn't work. And you just look at them and you're like, oh wow, they've completely cut off the east coast of America, or California is just like floating in the ocean, because it just all like doesn't fit together.
I watched and I wish I could link it, but there's no way I'm gonna remember it, but I watched this like YouTube like late one night on a bunny trail of like a very small business that makes maps that can cost upwards of like $100,000 plus.
Dreams. Because
it's like fully handmade. 3D print one.
I mean, I could 3D print a globe, but it wouldn't look nice. And also the 3D printer, my brother does have a 3D printer that he got for his birthday that he's never used, but it's only one of those tiny ones. So like, at maximum, we have one of these too. At maximum it'd be like maybe a baseball size, which like I'd like at least like a maybe basketball, maybe a little smaller than a basketball.
You can get like a really good like D&D model of a globe.
That would be very cool. Yeah, very tiny. I do actually, Real Men Grow Beards, I 100% want the globe that has a mini bar on the inside. I've wanted that for so long, and I look at that, I look on Facebook Marketplace for those, and I'm like, it's very tempting. I don't have the space, but it's very tempting if I see one.
That's cool. It's very anthropology.
All right, let me see. I know I have some comments on TikTok Live, but I'm trying to see who is live right now. So sorry, Mike. I know TikTok's hard to go live on. That's why I share on live on TikTok so that people come to the Twitch to see. Because Twitch is free. Twitch is free to sign up and view. And it's also, you can also view without signing up and stuff. It is, weirdly enough, Mike is wishing that TikTok is my primary platform. It actually is my primary platform in versus the amount of people that are following. I have many more people on TikTok, but I can't do lectures like this with all the we need images, and I think that's one of those things that I would love to do, like the chatting on and like do the Q&As on TikTok on live, but you need images. Like I cannot do lectures without images. For sure.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be very boring to not have something to refer back to.
I'd be like, I don't know how to describe this to you, because I would just need to put an image up of like the archaeology and stuff. But let us see. So thank you so much, Alexandria.
Yeah, this was so great. Should I let you go so you can raid? Am I gonna like keep you from raiding?
Yeah, I'll do that. So let's say everyone say goodbye and thank you to Alexandria, and we'll just go
thank
over
you for having me.
Regular chatting. Please go follow her. on TikTok. If you nope, that's the wrong link. I have her link up. I was about to put the link for the map again.
No, don't make me go through that again.
No more TNO.
No more TO.
Please go follow Alexandria on TikTok, and then also follow her on. We're gonna have to make you a command so it's easier. Go follow her on Twitch as well. And I am sure we will have Alexandria back. I have a long list of people, but like in a couple months, we're gonna need people to come on back because I haven't had any new people.
You know where to find me. So.
Yes. It'll be absolutely amazing. And you're gonna hear a lot. I'm sure I'm gonna talk about Alexandria's new venture, which is our Humanities Guild, and I'm sure I will talk about this more on stream as it kind of gets more cohesive and more together.
Yeah, we're working really hard on making it like a official, awesome thing, and as soon as we do that,
lots of cool upcoming things possibly coming from the Humanities Guild. I'm very excited.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun, especially chatting with you and bunny trails and distractions. And I had the best time tonight.
We always go on tangents here. It's inevitable.
It's fantastic. I loved it so much. It's the best thing I've ever done. But I'll let you get to rating and
all right.
let you get on with your night. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much.